I was coming in real mellow.
There you go. All right. Here we are, episode 55, Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast. I'm Dave Z. How's everybody?
Hello.
Doing well.
Doing well. All right. We're coming in mellow tonight. Usually we're coming in strong. Tonight we're doing it a little different. Don't know why. It just kind of happened that way. And again, it's season 3. We're doing what we want to do. So.
Well, not really. We're doing what Derek wants us to do.
Yeah. And it's a good show.
I'm very happy with the movies he picked, considering I thought I owned all 3, but I did only own 2 of them. But I was happy that he picked movies that I owned.
This is almost exclusively an old horror movie show, other than some triple R's.
Yeah, there is a lot of old stuff.
We talked about wanting to get into Hammer horror.
Yeah, and you know what? Just like when we did There's Always Room for Giallo last year, this makes me want to watch more Hammer horror. So right out of the gate, I'm like, okay, I've got to do, you know how Dave, you said you want to do the Stephen King over the course of the next year or two, whatever it may be, and go through the whole filmography of the Stephen King works. I want to hit every Hammer movie and go back and check out the Giallos that I said I was going to do, but because of the slasher show and everything else, there just wasn't time to do. So now I'm going to dedicate this year, after we do the 76 show, to Hammer and Giallo.
I couldn't agree more, Christian. I was going to kind of keep it a secret till we got into the reviews, but why keep the listeners in suspense? I'm down for more Hammer.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, at least you didn't turn that into like a sexual thing. This guy's always down for more Hammer.
Let's get it started.
Jackhammer.
Hammer. What was I going to say? How many Hammer movies are there?
Well, they started, in the 30s?
I know nothing.
I actually had the list. They did start there, but they really kicked it in high gear. And one of the ones that we watched was one of their last ones. I know they had a kind of a resurgence because...
Yeah, like technically The Woman in Black from like 2009 or whatever is considered Hammer, but I think they ended in the 70s, which is really a shame because that was like their peak time.
So wait a minute. The two of you, not collectively and individually, just thought it was going to be a good idea to go through all these Hammer movies without doing any bit of research as to how many there were or anything. You're just saying, I'm going to watch them all this year.
They started in 1935.
No, I did do research. I unfortunately, unlike you, I didn't count them all, but I have the list right here. I was trying not to make it so obvious that I was looking for shit, even though we're videotaping this for Patreon again. So bear with me, and I'll give you the fucking answers.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll talk about some bullshit. What else we got? I know, I am one. I just want a professional show. Okay.
A laid-back professional show?
Laid back, but still professional. See, that's where we fit in. It's
the
hard.
public life of Henry IX in 1935 was Hammer Film's first production, and they went all the way until 1979's The Lady Vanishes, which was their final Hammer production for 28 years, and then of course they came back in 2008 and have since films like Let Me In, Wakewood, The Woman in Black, The Quiet Ones, and some others are considered Hammer, but I don't count those.
But there's also, you're talking about all Hammer. I'm specifically talking about the horror films. And
MC
the horror
Hammer.
Films.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
You're talking
Hammer. A
Hammer.
lot of those jokes already, and we've already ran that into the ground.
Well,
I'm talking horror Hammer. And if you go to the ones that B was talking about, yes, they do date back to there. But a horror Hammer officially started in 1957 with The Curse of Frankenstein.
Aha!
Yeah. Well, what about they have the Quartermass experiment in 55?
Okay, in the meantime...
But what we're saying is in the 50s, I get what he's saying, and he's right. In the mid-50s, late 50s is when the horror really started.
31 flicks. And some of them we're going to actually watch, like, for instance, To a Devil a Daughter is a 76 flick. So we're going to be watching that for the 22 Shot show as well.
Already did.
Oh, okay.
I watched it for Full Frontal. What's her name? Natasha Kinski? That's why I watched it.
Oh, Klaus's daughter.
To the Devil a Daughter.
Yeah.
They love Bush. They love Bush and Hammer. I mean, I know that was more what they went to in the latter films, like the 70s, like they're tits and Bush.
Look, we're not discussing to the devil a daughter, so I'll just come out and say it right now. That was my least favorite of the 4 Hammer films that I watched.
I wasn't even.
I thought it was a complete bore.
Wow, and it's I was looking forward to seeing it because it's really well received.
Yeah, but I mean, we'll see what I have to say about tonight's films.
And then in 1993, there was a big change. MC Hammer started just calling himself Hammer, if you guys remember.
Yeah.
So let's not forget that. There's MC Hammer versus Hammer, and there's Real Hammer versus Horror Hammer.
This is the ultimate Hammer show. We're talking everything Hammer tonight.
Can we have a hammerhead shark as the thumbnail?
How do you say it? A ball peen hammer?
It sounds familiar. Ball peen.
I think that's what your sexual would prefer. Yeah.
Is that your ball or your peen?
Yeah.
Isn't it called a ball peen hammer though?
I think it is. I think that happens. That's usually like a complaint from a girl that hooks up with a guy. He had a ball peen hammer, you know?
And really long, saggy balls.
Yeah.
Indeed. So yeah, we're talking some hammer tonight, and a couple other triple R's. A lot of all this is Patreon, not all of it, but 2 triple R's and 3 features are Patreon. So we'll talk about who did it and when the time comes. But before we go into our first review, there's a couple of topics. So I'm going to make it quick. A couple things here that caught my interest. First of all, this is show related. We said we were going to do a retrospective for a movie. So we put up a poll and a big controversy ensued, right? So
As usual.
Now we have not discussed Friday the 13th, take a drink, in over 2 years. We said we weren't going to rush. We weren't going to do the big ones until our 3rd year. So here we go on our 3rd year, played everything right, put up a poll. And we gave choices. And Friday the 13th overwhelmingly comes in. However, a lot of people had beef with it. It's been done.
Done to death.
Right, done to death. Well, like it or not, it won, and we're going to do it. It's not going to be now. It's going to be later on, right time of year, and we're taking our time, and we're going to make it the best show we can because we're Friday fanboys here, obviously. So we're going to do a good job. And Brandon, we'll see. But our history has been documented in the podcast world, Christians in mind. But anyway.
Mr. New Blood over there.
Mr. New Blood, yeah. So second place, Phantasm came in.
Another one that's never been talked about.
Right, another one that's never been talked about. Now you're going to knock her? Now, I'm about
No, every franchise, I don't get why people fight because they vote for it, and every franchise has been talked about it like a million times. Like, is there really anything that hasn't been talked about?
Oh, yeah. Ju-on, nobody's talked about.
What'd you call me?
There hasn't been a Ju-on joke in a while, actually.
This is true.
That's true, but like you said, half of them are like impossible to get.
Yeah, they're hard, although I'm getting closer. But there's different ones. Nobody's done Hannibal. We talked about doing that. We talked about doing even the Omen people haven't done. These are ones that are sitting out there that people haven't done. But yet, when we put it to vote, where did they finish? They finished in the middle or towards the bottom. So the demand was still there for freaking Friday and for, obviously, because it won. And then Phantasm. And then what else came in real high? There was a couple other ones. There was like a top 5, and they all came in. Evil Dead was another big one. And I forgot the 2 others. And next show, I'll discuss it again. I'll look it up, but I don't remember. But those ones were pretty much, they have been done. Every one of those shows has been done. You know?
And we put the poll out there. I know things were coming back, but Friday still blew it away, correct?
Yes, it's still
out of the water.
Pretty strong. Oh, yeah, definitely. Second place was Phantasm. And that was that. But then we just so happened to be talking to Christine, because Christine Strauss stepped up another tier and Patreon.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah. Everybody follows suit.
Yeah, let her be an example to the rest of you slackers.
Right?
We know this is hard times, but fuck.
Yeah, but $1?
This is my only source of income.
For less than a cup of coffee, Brandon can have new shoes.
Think about the bullshit you spend $1 on every month. My God, $1. Anyway, Christine stepped up, and we're going to do Phantasm. So thank you. We're excited about it, and that's going to be next show. So you guys are going to get 2 this year at least.
Ravager? Hardly know her.
Oh. Now, even
Get Frankie
even
back.
22
I'm
shots.
leaving.
I listened to 22 shots,
You
and
do?
they were complaining. They were complaining. Well, two of them were about us doing Friday the 13th. Okay? It's been done to death. It's been done to death. JP said I'm interested because of the people involved, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me because Moods doesn't listen anyway.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I don't think even if he wasn't in a podcast, I don't think he'd even know what a podcast was.
He's still trying to look for it on AM. This fucking guy. I don't hear us.
Jeremy's never listened to a podcast. But I was thinking about something. They cracked me up. I'm going to bust on their balls now because they did something. You know how we make fun of Christian for, hold on now, for the hyperbole thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, listen to this. Speaking of 22 shots and fucked up things. I'm listening. Did you guys listen to the Hellraiser show?
No.
No? B?
In all reality, that's a lot of bullshit movies to go through.
I listened to the first 4 and stopped because I haven't finished the movies. So,
Absolutes. Yeah. I'd stop dead. Period. Right there.
I stopped listening when they said they were going to do the Hellraiser franchise.
I don't care what people were saying about that last one. You check out the first 10 minutes and you tell me. I was like, this is a train wreck right out of the gate.
I was shocked at how many people were raving
seem
it.
to love it. I can't fully comment. I have to actually watch it. But
yeah, wait till next show.
Yeah.
Or the show after. Because I started it too, and I was okay with it. And I was like 20 minutes in, I was getting tired, so I stopped. But that's another story. So I will get back to it. But they're doing this Hellraiser franchise. And as they're talking, now I'm used to this shit from Speak and Spell. Those guys, freaking JP and Jeremy, they're always mispronouncing things, spelling things wrong, saying wrong shit. Moods is usually pretty solid. Well, wouldn't you know, all three of them refer to the box. What do you guys call the box?
Lament configuration.
Okay, I agree. All three of them, multiple times, refer to it as
The layman's?
the Lamont configuration.
Lamont. That's the urban configuration.
What is it, fucking Sanford and Son? Okay. The Lamont configuration. It's in my junk pile. The big one's coming, Elizabeth.
Leroy, come help me with this Lamont configuration. Oh man, now I gotta go back and listen to that show.
Lamont.
Just to hear that.
They did it again. All three of them. How could all three of them?
Like a black guy in jerseys. Lamont, get over here.
It's Lamont Sanford.
You know how many people got shot for touching Lamont's configuration?
Oh shit.
That's funny.
Yes.
I should be commenting because I fuck shit up like that all the time, but certain
We all
mine's
do,
whatnot.
yeah.
Every time I say whatnot, just feel free to slap a dead fish across my face.
Whatnot? I don't mind whatnot. Yeah, it's okay. It's not like you're saying like very Canadian things. You know what I mean? Like annoyingly. You don't do that shit. I'll give you props.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I am a little tired today. I was moving to Chesterfield, and it's very heavy. That's a very Canadian term, Chesterfield.
Chesterfield.
Yeah, that's a couch.
Is this
We call it Chesterfield.
Really?
You've never heard that term before?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
Man, I thought I had the lowest joke of the night.
I don't even know.
I'm not even sure if this is a joke or if this is real.
It's real. Chesterfield is that's what he's like saying. You don't say stupid Canadian things. So I'm like, I'm very tired from moving to Chesterfield because it's actually a term we use. Like, oh, it's over there by the Chesterfield.
The couch is the Chesterfield?
Yeah.
So you've sat on Chester's face?
Mr. Chesterfield.
Wow. I never heard of that.
I've never either.
So, Christian, when you're in your household, you tell your kids, hey, get off the Chesterfield. It's time for dinner.
Get your feet off the Chesterfield.
You can. I pretty much say get off the couch, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, but there are people that say get off the goddamn Chesterfield.
Wow. That's so
Lamont,
weird.
Lamont, get the fuck off the Chesterfield.
Lamont! Get that configuration over here. Yeah. I'd love it. Okay, now listen, I'll go a step further. This is running rampant on the Horrorphilia Network because I listened to Kill the Cast this past week as well, and I could not believe it. But listen to this. First there's Hyperbole, okay? And then there's Lamont configuration. Guess what Jerry said? He wanted... I've never heard anyone do this. Have you ever heard anyone pronounce the word as epitome?
Epitome?
Yes, the word is epitome. But Jerry called Jay, or not Jay, he called, What the hell did he do? Wait, I forgot what he did. Bottom line
He called somebody the epitome of something.
Yeah. Is that legit?
You're the epitome of stupid.
You took one too many hits in the hyperbole. Actually, believe it or not, though, Christian, I'm going to defend you here because hyperbole is still something I'll hear scholars say. I'll hear intelligent people refer to it as hyperbole as well as hyperbole. So I think that's one that can go either way, like like you.
That's what we say, the upper crust of society.
Kicking my feet up on the Chesterfield, I'm watching the hyperbole, and I'm the epitome of a Canadian. I don't know.
As I'm sitting there holding my Lamont configuration.
You know what, Lamont? I forgot the other one.
Lamont.
I can't believe we're making fun of this when I know for a fact, I was speaking just for me, I'm fumbling over words every 2 seconds when I'm talking.
I know for a fact I got to edit this much pause in between Brandon's sentences. So anyway, I was at the movies the other night, and like, holy fuck.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes I need a timeout just to rest. I try not to fumble over my words like you do, because sometimes you talk and you get to the end of a statement and we're like, what?
Oh,
What's he talking about?
I know. I said it the last time. I catch myself doing it all the time.
No, you're good. You're good. We're kidding.
No, he's not good. He's the epitome. He's the epitome of hyperbole. So get off that Chesterfield and bring that Lamont configuration over to me. Come on.
Yeah.
Lamont configuration.
And one more thing, Fangoria is coming back.
Yeah.
And I call bullshit on everybody that's acting so happy about it. Because where the fuck were you guys for the past 3 years when nobody was buying those magazines? And nobody was going on the website. And I was over here sitting saying what a sad state of affairs it is on this very podcast. And we said, it's a shame. I wish Fangoria was at the forefront like they used to be. It's sad to see what they've become. Now, where were all these people? I just find it so funny that everybody's all of a sudden so excited that they're coming back. Where the fuck have you been? What? Tell me. You know what I mean? I find it strange. Am I the only guy?
No, that's fair. I've never owned a Fangoria in my life, so to me, like, I'm happy. That's good for people who like Fangoria. But I wasn't, jumping on the bandwagon. Oh my god. Are they doing a limited run, like only a couple of issues a year?
Four a year.
Quarterly.
Season.
So that makes more sense because they couldn't go. I think even Rue Morgue went to
quarterly.
6 a year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's quarterly.
No.
No,
No.
6 a year. Okay.
It is 6 a year. You're correct.
Yeah. I can't imagine being in print. It's still niche, or as the 22 Shots guys might say, nice.
That works.
Nikki.
Anyway, print is weird. I know moods, and there's a lot of people out there, I need a hard copy. I used to be like that. I used to be a collector. Digital. Everything's digital now. Websites. Yeah, you got horrormovies.ca, bloodydisgusting.com. I don't care what you think of the people. There's so many other options out there, and they've been out there, and they've established themselves as the new blood. Brandon, don't get excited over there. For the last 15 plus years, and there's so many alternative means to get your information now that I give it a year, and I hate to be that.
I know
because I used to collect that. I had over 100 of the magazines.
I had a fair share myself, and I carried them everywhere I went for 20 plus years. And finally, I forgot where and when it happened, but I got to the point that I was sick of taking them place to place, collecting dust and moving from, and I don't know what became of them. I don't remember. And it's kind of sucks. I wish I had them now still, but I don't. But what are you going to do? But I just found it funny how everybody came out of the woodwork. Fangoria's coming back. Yay, here we go. Yeah, ooh.
I think it's just it's looked at it, and I can see this. It's positive news for the horror fan.
Sure,
we're horror fans, so it's a staple of the horror community rising from the ashes, so to speak, and hopefully regaining its former glory. But yeah, I hate to be the negative Nancy, but two things, that I was like, oh, that's cool, but I can't imagine it surviving. And then the other thing was, I'm not that excited about the new Halloween movie.
Oh, I am so excited. Everything I hear is great. How could you not be excited?
I think it's because I don't want to be. I've been so let down so many times. I think I just want to go in with the lowest expectations. So I'm like, whoa, this is the fucking best thing I've ever seen.
That's true. I feel you. But listen, that they're doing the best thing that no sequel has done The Michael and Laurie being brother and sisters is fucking finally gonna be gone. The worst thing that ever happened in freaking horror in that franchise, which turned them into in a horror franchise, because as soon as they made that thing, the entire rest of their franchise had to all be about his family, his fucking niece, and his cult that made him kill his family. Everything was family.
And his
family,
horse.
Family. And the horse that he killed. Yes.
His white horse.
His mother. His horse.
You know what his horse's name was?
Lamont.
A horse.
A little bit of trivia.
A horse with no name.
It's not a horse with no name. It's Lamont.
I just said Lamont.
Did you?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I wasn't like Fuck.
Because I said that's a really weird name for a white horse.
Oh, okay.
If you want to ride the white horse, Lamont. Okay.
There should be a lot more Lamont jokes tonight, people. So just fucking get it. Fucking through your head right now. You're going to hear a lot of Lamont jokes.
Well, that's what they get. Come on. How do they not know it's the lament configuration? They tease me all the time because I don't know what Hammer horror is, and I didn't know what abacus was or some shit like that at one point. And, oh, Dave, you, especially Moods, you surprise me. Other than he goes, you never cease to amaze me because you know all this stuff. But then, how do you not know about this? And, him and Derek, they're like encyclopedias. So it's like they're always saying shit. And they're always surprised that I don't know certain stuff. Yet, they're calling it the Mont configuration. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, I love those guys. But yeah, tonight, Hammer, horror. What 3 movies are we doing? Who knows? Twins of Circus? No.
Why don't you let someone else handle it since you just combined 2 movies?
Twins of Circus?
We're doing Countess, Dracula, Twins of Evil, and Vampire Circus.
Yeah, Hammer. We're going to get into that in a minute. What do you guys want to do? Break or not break?
Let's break. Goodbye, Patreon, folks.
Oh, goodbye, Patreon, folks.
Hopefully they're going to stay and listen to the rest of the show, so I'm not going to say goodbye to them.
It's the video portion, you fucking twit.
Wait, we're on video?
Are you tired of the cast? Are you sick of its casty ways? Well then, kill the cast. Are you having trouble in the bedroom? Is your wife tearing down your confidence and your manhood on a daily basis? Are your kids the bastard children of other men? Well then, what are you waiting for? Kill the cast. Kill the cast. Kill the cast. When you can no longer stand exotic, ravishing women approaching you in the street looking for a good time, when those bi-weekly infant blood transfusions simply aren't enough, when your parents just don't understand, it's time to kill the cast. Kill the cast. Kill the cast is the viable, safe alternative to injuring the cast, hurting the cast's feelings, or merely poking the cast with a stick. Why bother to leave the cast alive when you can kill the cast? Kill the Cast is vitamin-rich and is part of a high-protein, low-carb, and low-sugar diet. It's also calorie-free, diabetic-friendly, and recommended by 10 out of 10 dentists. Kill the Cast. Kill the Cast. Kill the Cast. I'm Mr. Watson from Horror Corridor, part of the Horrorphilia network of horror podcasts, and I approve this message.
Straight from a legend's mouth, you heard it. Kill the Cast, a horror podcast for everyone from Cenobites to werewolves. Come join us exclusively on horrorphilia.com.
I think I have an idea here. I think we should go away for 4 months and return in July, and then everybody will be thrilled that we're back. I think I figured it out. I think like Fangoria, they went away for like 4 months. Nobody gave a shit before they went. They come back, everyone's up there. Oh my God, Fangoria! Okay, how about Mr. Watson? Mr. Watson doesn't put out a show for 4 months. Everybody's salivating for this newest episode. So I think these people are onto something.
No,
so,
you're right, Dave. People have been asking me when Christian's going to start recording quarterly.
Well, for TJF 13, that's kind of how it's been going.
That's like 1 episode a year if we're lucky at this point.
Oh, it's crazy. I feel bad. Vince is like ready to go. He's busting at the seams.
Yeah,
it's been me. It's been crazy at work, man. Circus, Vampire Circus has been nuts.
Nice.
Those vampire elephants bite.
Yeah.
So now, Derek B. He's the guy responsible for tonight's show. These are all his picks. Hammer horror. It's my introduction to it. I believe it's Brandon's introduction to it.
Right? It is.
Okay, and C has a little bit of history with it.
Yeah, well, actually, on the topic of remakes, since we're not talking about remakes, I'm just going to start into the topic of remakes. People complain about remakes. Remakes have been around for a long time, and the reason I bring this up now is The Phantom of the Opera is probably one of the most remade horror films ever. That story has been remade probably more than anything else. If you don't consider each Friday the 13th sequel a remake of the last and just look at them as sequels, Phantom of the Opera, the story has probably been the most remade movie in the horror realm. And the reason I bring that up is I love the Herbert Lom one, which is Hammer horror. And I can't wait to revisit that again because that's the one I watched the most as a kid.
Nice.
Yeah, and I always said if you're gonna remake something, just remake it.
Yeah. I mean, we said that for the last 2 weeks at least.
Yeah. If you're gonna remake it, remake it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work if Stephen King wanted to remake it and he remade Needful Things.
But look at it. They had the Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera. They had the I believe there's one in the 40s that I'm forgetting who the main actor is in, the Herbert Lom, and then we had a TV Phantom of the Opera movie, and then there was the Robert Englund one, then there was the musical rendition.
Love it.
6 right there.
And
6.
Dario Argento's.
Dario Argento's, thank you, of course. Because I thought of that earlier, and then I forgot now. And then if you want to take the Phantom of Paradise, Phantom of the Mall, like the offshoots of that too, like there's a shitload of them. But even just a name only, there is a lot of Phantom of the Operas.
Yeah, it's a big one. And the only one I've ever seen was Argento's. How about that?
Oh.
I know. And I don't hate it, but it's the only one I've ever seen. I hear you. But tonight, we're doing these 3. Thanks to Derek B., Mr. Cinema Attack, Mr. Helping us out on Patreon. We appreciate it all. And you are getting your reviews. So, what's the first one? Vampire Circus? Countess of Evil.
I gotta stop you again. Countess of Evil. I gotta stop you. I know he's wrong. He's always wrong. I gotta stop you. I put a poll and people made jokes and no one answered the question. I fucked up last episode. I said I love Hammer horror movies. I love to answer your question even more thoroughly, even though we're already off of it, Dave, and I'm bringing it right back. I love the horror of Dracula and all the scars of Dracula and all the Christopher Lee Dracula movies. I've seen all those, the Phantom of the Opera. But where I'm going with it is, I said Vincent Price. Vincent Price was never in a Hammer horror movie.
Or a horror movie, for that matter.
Yeah. He was never in a Hammer movie. We just automatically sort of associate him with Hammer, or at least I guess I did. But he's in those, he's in the Roger Corman movies, but he wasn't in Hammer horror.
Right. It's kind of like Young MC. He didn't really hang out with MC Hammer, but people kind of consider them in the same thing.
I always got him more confused with Tone Loc.
Problem. Good call. Okay.
Wait, who's Tony?
Has done it again. Yeah, that was a band. Yeah.
Didn't Vincent Price play a character named Lamont in a Hammer horror film?
He was never released.
Oh shit! The joke's just not gonna get old.
No.
Okay. I'm glad I brought it up.
Should we get into our first film?
Yeah, let's do it before we're here all fucking night.
All right, our first film will be Countess Dracula from 1971, and the description is: in medieval Europe, aging Countess Elizabeth rules harshly with the help of her lover, Captain Dobie. Finding that washing in the blood of young girls makes her young again, she gets Dobie to start abducting likely candidates. And this one was directed by Peter Sasti. I could be saying it wrong, but his name's not Lamont.
Right, at least we're trying.
I'll tell you what, right off the bat, the thing that really drew me into this film, because this was the first one I watched, was that opening credit sequence with that image, that painting image. And I looked it up after. That image was an actual painting of the actual Countess Elizabeth in her torture chamber while they're torturing some of her victims. They used to pour water on the girls and make them freeze to death.
Countess Elizabeth or Countess Bethany of Hungary? I thought that was what it was.
Countess Elizabeth Bathory. That's a
Bethany?
Are you talking about Bathory?
Bathory.
these fucking guys. I don't know which one of you guys is worse.
Sorry, it was my handwriting in this case. See, that's the one problem about the handwritten notes. That was an R, not an N. I apologize.
Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah, no shit.
I loved it. The great atmospheric score. And you didn't like that image? I thought it was really creepy. I was like, "Ooh, it's got me."
No, that's cool. I forgot about that image, so I can't really comment on it. I just watched it last night too. It's the one I watched the most recent, and I don't remember. But whatever. I mean, I missed it. I'll tell you something. This was not at all what I was expecting. This had no relation to Dracula whatsoever, except a vampire.
And that's the major taint on this movie. Is that
we're doing hammers, not taints.
is because people say you get kind of bamboozled with the title, but again, it's a Hammer flick, and there's blood, and I guess back in the day they didn't have oil of Olay; they just bathed in blood to get younger looking.
But think about this: I didn't know about Countess Bathory, and you're actually learning about a real person that existed. To what extent the stories are true or not, and she ultimately did inspire what is common in Dracula lore today.
Well, she didn't really drink it though; she used it for her skin.
No, but the whole idea of using it to keep your youth.
Sure. No, I get that. I just find it weird.
I wasn't expecting bats and vampires. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting that.
I was, but I wasn't disappointed with what I got.
And neither was I. I enjoyed the film, but everything I've heard about Hammer is Christopher Lee Dracula and all that other shit are like front and center. So when I hear something with Dracula in the title, I'm 100% when I'm sitting down to watch this film, I'm thinking it's going to be related to that Dracula, directly, because it's Hammer and it's Dracula. And then the movie, and I'm like, wow, this isn't what I was expecting at all. As a matter of fact, all three of these movies weren't really what I was expecting. But we'll get to them as Vampire Circus, I guess, to a degree. There were vampires and it was a circus, so I guess that was. But still, some of the presentation I wasn't expecting it. But anyway,
so the setup for this, I was just gonna give a quick setup. Is the Count has died and the Countess is now in charge, and she is not a nice person, as is evident by the opening scene where she's riding back to the castle and. The freaking poor guy comes up. He's like, "Your husband promised me work," and she's just like, "Fuck you!" Pushes him off, and he falls underneath the carriage.
Yeah, and he gets killed.
Yeah,
killed by a. Is that possible? He got killed by a.
Absolutely.
A wooden wheel is gonna kill somebody.
Absolutely. It's a Wonder Wheel, like in the toy. Wonder Wheel.
Oh, Wonder Wheel, please! We go through too much together, Wonder Wheel. I'm going to bring you to my cousin Lamont. What is this?
And Christian's like, would you guys stop this?
I know, we're off the...
I love it, though. I'm glad you got in on that.
I just love, which is a common theme in all the Hammer movies, like, just how they drench their movie in atmosphere. Like, you don't mistake it for anything else, with the castles, the villages, carnivals, the Victorian garb, as I always like to say. I know it's not Victorian, but that style. And this one had a fair amount of titty kissing, too.
Yeah. Oh my God. Another thing. Beautiful women. Holy shit.
Every one of these movies.
Yeah.
Every single one of these films had beautiful women in it.
Yeah.
It was really insane. I was just like, oh my God. Where did they find these women?
Right? England, apparently. Right? I mean...
Where's your cousin at?
But yo, here's something interesting. And tell me if I missed something. This is covering all three Hammer films. I don't think at any time they said the year anything takes place. We're just have to assume. No? It never said someplace.
No, it didn't say, but I know Countess Dracula is the 16th century, so the 1550s, 1580s.
They're old. They all seem old. They don't say exactly when it is, and I accept it, and it's fine. But that's one thing about these films. I think I knew going into it that they were all going to take place in the past, and so far they have. I don't know about Lee's Dracula and the rest of them, and I'm fine with that.
Right about those set pieces in that atmosphere, though, man. It's just, and even the acting. I was very, very impressed with the acting throughout. This is almost like you can see that these are like classically trained actors. Like, this came across almost as like a stage production.
Yeah, that's what they do. And this film felt bigger than the other two for tonight that we're talking about tonight. It just felt a little bit bigger.
Yes.
The set of the castle was absolutely spectacular. I mean, it didn't feel like a set. You know it is, but it just didn't feel like it. Again, I thought this tore page of the Dorian Gray story. Instead of the pitcher getting older, she does, and then it gets like increasingly older every time she goes through the process. And I thought they did a good job with the makeup there, played around the theme of the vanity and youth and the horror of getting old. It's fun though. They looked like they had fun with this, and there's shocking moments like, you know, when they show the day-to-day life, there's this one scene where it just cuts to a slaughtered pig, and the guy just starts hacking at it with that, and it's like, and you're like, oh, and it just the camera just sort of continues, dollies along into the scene, and all their movies are like that. You kind of get like thrown into the time, the lifestyle, and that's what I love about Hammer Horror, and that's why I said earlier, I can't wait to visit all the ones that I haven't seen yet.
I like it, and I'm glad I watched them, and I'm into it now. I'm more into period pieces than I ever was. This isn't something that I can watch all the time, but it's definitely something that's been added to you know, my future repertoire of you know, what I'm going to watch, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad. I can't watch it constantly, but I do like it. You know, I dig it, and there's beautiful women. The story's good. The acting is good. There's actually gore. You know what I mean?
The shot of her being exposed.
Oh, at the end,
when she's covered in blood and naked in the tub. I'm like, oh. Man, that's a great shot. Like,
freeze right there. Yeah, I'll show you a great shot.
Oh.
I was thinking the end when you see the top of her head, that whole thing at the very end. You know what I'm talking about, right? The climax of the film? Okay, all right, because I guess it's kind of spoiler, so we don't have to say it. But, I mean, that's cool looking. I was like, damn, that was good shit.
I love how it's not just any blood. It has to be virgin blood.
It makes sense, though.
It does. I mean, it almost seems like a theme, because something similar pops up in another movie we'll be talking about tonight, too.
Yeah. No, I like the fact that when they killed, like, the town whore, it did nothing, had no effect. And it had to be Master Fabio who told them, who just lived in the library. He inherited the library in the count's will, and he just lived there. But he was smart though, because he was the first one to realize that the Countess, who had her own daughter, Alana.
The Countess's daughter, Daphne, I think.
No, Alana.
Oh no, that's daughter. It's not Brittany? Daphne. Sorry.
Alana. She had her kidnapped because she was going to pretend to be her when she was young. And Fabio was the first one to realize, hey, didn't the daughter look like the father?
Right.
Because the daughter's been away for like 13 years. And now she's coming home because she's inherited half the fortune from the will.
Yep. But, you know, that works to a degree. But a lot of times kids, as they're growing up, they change. You know, they might look like their mother the first 5 years, and they develop, and they look more, you see more of their father's features as time goes on. But for the sake of the film, that was cool. And he is probably my favorite character. That guy's great.
Who?
He's freaking always in a good mood, always has something good to say. He's happy about the library. He doesn't bother nobody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wrote down 2 lines. I don't even know why I wrote them down. I guess I found them funny. Which they're drawing a bath for her. The servant's drawing a bath for her at the beginning. Wish me to burn myself, wench. Cold water. That line. And then the guy that is kind of enamored by her, that keeps getting the shaft, the one that's doing her bidding, the stoic.
Doby.
Yeah, thank you.
Captain Doby.
Yeah, Captain Doby.
Doby. I kept thinking of freaking Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Dobby?
Yeah.
What do you want? For us to make love? Like how you look now? Like 2 old fools fumbling at each other? I go, who writes this? But it's great dialogue.
That made me sad.
How about the pimp guy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And wait a minute.
He was pimping girls and goats.
This wouldn't play well nowadays, because I figure there'd be a lot of groups getting up in arms. The same groups that changed the Canadian lyrics and on the Canadian national anthem would be not happy about the misogyny in this movie.
It's
That's
a
true,
scary time, but at least, this is probably how it was.
Yeah, I don't understand why that girl, was she attending bar and also was a whore? Didn't she work at that place? Remember when they brought
She was drinking there.
She can't moonlight?
I thought she was working there because she had the low cut thing on, and I thought she was serving them drinks, and the guy said he's being married tomorrow. They're gonna make a great pair, and she goes, "Oh, not as good as this pair." And she put her tit in
And
his
he
face.
kisses them.
Yeah, he does kiss him.
Yeah, there's a lot of tit kissing in this movie.
But he
Yeah,
wouldn't fuck her
was
when he had the chance.
as innocent as he made out to be. Granted, he was plastered
He
when
was
he
hammered,
did that.
yeah. He was hammered.
hammered. Yes.
Stop. Hammer time. Yeah. Awesome. But is there really such thing as a whorehouse back in those days? But I mean, there was a whorehouse. But did they refer to it as a whorehouse, you think, in the 16th century? Because the guy says, try the whorehouse. When the girl
It's
goes
called the
missing.
House of Ill Repute.
I don't know, Dave. I take it as it's delivered to me. I didn't do any research into finding out
Hey,
if there was a... Sorry about that. I didn't check if the 1600s had whorehouses. I assume so.
No, you're missing my... No. I'm not saying there wasn't whorehouses. There's always been a horse.
If they called it the whorehouse?
Yes, that they call it was like watching something from olden days using modern jargon. It just that one word. It goes, oh, try the whorehouse. I was just surprised that the word whorehouse was used.
Try the Tavern of Debauchery.
There you go. That's better than House of Ill Repute. There you go.
House of Ill Repute. I love House of Ill Repute.
How about the 50 Coronas that she was paid? That's a lot of beer, man.
So I thought the same thing when we were watching it. I'm like,
Did you know, and I didn't see it, I didn't even go back to see him, but Elton John had a cameo in this? No joke. This is not a joke. 100%
Really?
Elton John had a cameo, and he was in the bar scene. He was one of the guys sitting at the bar.
I had
In the
no
bar.
clue. No.
Yeah. That is...
Wow.
That
Did
is
you
not
recognize that, or
that's
did you
not-
read it?
I read it after the fact, and I'm like, really, Elton John? I think he was the one in the corner yelling, Benny! Benny! Evidently, his friend Benny had just walked in.
I thought he was the one in the corner with a goat. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. You could probably wax a little bit more intellectual about it, but I just thought it suffered from a little bit of a rushed ending. We had all this build up, and then a quick wedding scene. Boom! It could have been something bigger just to finish the movie. Since the movie felt so big before in comparison to the other two, and all these movies are great. I'm just saying that it just felt like it had a bigger budget for whatever reason. And I don't think it did. Actually, funny enough, I think it had a lower budget. But
Yeah.
I
think that's just a style of these films that, the credits are rolling while the last scene is still taking place. The credits are rolling and you're still getting a reaction shot. I kind of like that.
Yeah, they kind of do it in Giallos if you think about it.
Yeah.
Giallos
Oh,
being
yeah.
done that way,
Absolutely.
like, abruptly. Maybe it was a product of the time.
The
I'm
movies
glad
would
they didn't
end.
drag out the end, actually.
Movies would end abruptly, but I'm just saying the climax felt rushed almost.
I gotcha.
There
Okay.
should have been a little bit more to it. They a nice build up to it, and then it just sort of ended. I was like, oh,
You're right.
I found it funny that Imre, who proposes to the Countess thinking it's the daughter, immediately, when he meets the actual daughter, falls in love with her instantly. I guess when the average life expectancy is like 20 years in the 1500s, you can't waste time. You're like, all right, I'm over her. I love you now.
well, she doesn't have to rub blood on her, and she's hot too.
Yes.
True.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, you're all good. But that's what I noticed about these old films. And that's why I kind of rag on them sometimes. I see some things that are a little convenient, and I noticed that in this movie, the guy's just not even dating the girl for 2 weeks and he proposes. I noticed that a lot with these old films. That like nowadays, if you're watching a movie, you just wouldn't see that. You wouldn't see people just starting to date for a couple weeks and propose.
Well, because that's the sign of the times too. They did get married at the age of 15, 16.
Yeah.
And courtships were probably a lot less.
And it took them 3 months to probably get to the castle. It's not like a quick 45-minute drive, It's like,
Honey, I wanted to marry you at the beginning of this trip, but now that we're here, fuck off. You got a sister?
And people wait nowadays. They wait to get married, and most of them end in divorce. Like more than half end in divorce. Back then, they're getting married right away, and apparently those marriages lasted longer. Isn't that weird? That's like food for thought. Frozen food for thought.
Yeah, literally frozen food for thought.
That's a line from The Haunting, by the way.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's a good line. Can't wait to talk about that. Here's what I don't get. The objective of the daughter being held captive. How long was that supposed to go on for? Forever?
Indefinitely, until they could figure out what to do with her.
But why not just kill her?
Why not just kill her?
I thought that it was going to come to that. I actually thought because of how some of these movies have played out, because some of these movies break taboos. Actually, all of them broke taboos. I was shocked at those things. I was like loving it because a lot of these movies had every ingredient that Dave wants to see in a modern movie, and we got them in these movies. So where I'm going with this, though, is that I thought she was going to kill her virgin daughter as the ultimate sacrifice.
Makes sense.
And that was going to be like keeping her young forever.
They did go there with it, but it was funny how it was, not funny, but it was interesting how it was like almost Dobby's revenge. Dobby.
Yeah.
Dobby.
I mean, now you said Harry Potter. Dobby. Captain Dobby's revenge was when she said, I need another girl, he brings her daughter.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Every day, she would have had to kill somebody, a virgin, every single day to sustain what she was doing. Because look how quick they went through her. That's the only problem. Like, it could be done. Like, if you had the opportunity to marry somebody that was going to live forever, right, and stay young and hot forever, and all they had to do was put virgin blood on themselves once in a while, you just might do it because you're going to be rich. You're in that place. You don't care that she's really old. She looks like
get that needle away from me.
Yeah, dude. Doesn't matter. Every day, you can't have somebody killed every day. That's the weird thing.
That's the power dynamic. She was so powerful. You saw the drastic social economic divide between the poor and the rich,
and the virgins and the whores.
What a creeper or captor was, though, eh?
Yeah.
He was like licking his lips in every scene.
Yeah. and it took her how long to figure out, all I got to do is seduce this guy and I can get out of here.
Yeah, and it didn't even. What did she?
But it was
do?
such
She
a fumbled.
on the head. Yeah, that was a little fumble, but man, I really enjoyed this one.
I did too, but again, it's one of those conveniences that you wouldn't see in modern film. Back then, that's what I'm saying. That's a little bit silly if you look at it, objectively. That's all I'm saying. And I have a good rating for it. I'm not shitting on the movie at all.
I have a rating for it too. I really liked everything. I thought when Imre found out that I was like, all right, well, he's obviously not going to go along with it, but I like the fact that the Countess now is bribing him, saying that she'll blame all the murders on him, and of course they'll believe her because she's the leader. And then all these bodies start turning up, and so he's kind of forced into marrying the Countess now, even though he doesn't want to. So he's almost like ready to sacrifice himself and have the other woman, that Julie, the Countess's like assistant who knew everything from the beginning, help Ilona to escape. And I thought it was a really well done scene, how she doesn't leave and she sticks around because she wants to see her mother. She's not really aware of what's going on, of how desperate it is. Yeah,
and I was really surprised at the confession. Usually when someone's confronted in a situation like that, they bullshit, they say something else. So that's one thing they did differently when the Countess actually confessed as to everything that she was doing when she was confronted. That was... Yeah. I didn't expect that, did you?
Not since they kind of set her up. Well, I guess, was she set up as a bad person? The only reason I'd say yes is because they ran over that guy right out of the gate. But she sort of became evil as the movie went on. So yeah, you don't really expect it from her character.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's unusual. Usually it's deny, and then take advantage. But she walks in and she's like, yes, here I am. The blood's on me. This is the truth. This is what
it even leaves the last shot of the movie open for interpretation because of just discussing whether or not the Countess is somewhat changed by the end of this. I don't think so.
I don't
Not
either.
Based on what I read, but it's it was really well done. I was so impressed with this.
Yeah, and I like the ending. I like Countess Dracula. That was cool. Yeah.
Devil woman, Countess Dracula.
We got to wedge this title in here somehow.
The hangman is coming. The hangman is coming.
Well, that was it. And it was like ding, 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 and then end. So, I'm not
I
saying
like it.
it's all everything's tied up more or less. It just could have had a bigger ending.
True. Still a good
Minor
movie.
quibble.
Yeah. I think
Let's
we can rate
let's
this.
see how minor.
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
I'm
That's
7.5, and I thought you liked it more than me. I'm 7.5 out of 10.
I liked it a lot more than both of you. I'm sorry. I'm an 8.5 out of 10.
Wow.
I was really drawn into this one.
That's good. Why are you sorry about that?
I don't
Yeah.
know why I'm sorry about this. Fuck you.
You sorry sack of shit.
I'm Canadian now. I'm the Canadian Lamont.
No, man, nothing to be sorry about. That's awesome. And
Yeah.
a great Hammer movie. This was the last one I watched. So it's going to be a
First
common
one.
theme tonight. Yeah.
First one I watched, and it was a great start, great introduction to Hammer horror. Although I think I actually watched To the Devil a Daughter before, but that's slow.
Yeah, I just fast forwarded till I saw Natasha in her full frontal. Nice. Okay, so that's the first movie. We got a couple of RRRs we have to do, and we're going to split them up a little bit because we have two that were Patreon RRRs, and we'll do them, and then we'll save the other ones for afterwards. So the Patreon RRRs are as follows. First of all, I can't wait to say this because this goes back to an earlier topic, but we have a All Access has been pledged by Matt Jonkowski. You hear how easy that is to say? Matt Jonkowski. Jonk. Do you guys know that every week on fucking 22 Shots, they can't say the guy's name? I think it's Janowski or Jabrowski.
We're really
or this
coming
or
down
that,
on
or
those 22 shots.
John
tonight.
I don't mean to, but
Well, since JP's the only one who listens, JP, just call him Lamont.
nice. But I mean, come on, Jonkoski. There's no other way to say it. These guys fumble it every fucking episode. Anyway, thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt's in the house. Now, this is Raphael, and I'm going to pronounce it Gardo. Maybe it's Gallardo. I don't know, but Gallardo. Hopefully I was right on the first one. But he just signed up, and he's on the he's able to pledge right away. His choice for RRR, he says, I thought through films that I've loved to hear you three discuss, and I finally settled on one. It is Three Extremes from 2004. I know how much you personally love Asian horror and anthologies, so I think you'll get a kick out of this, and I hope Christian and Brandon will as well. So, here we go. Three Extremes for Raphael.
Ooh, yeah.
First of all,
Thanks, Raphael.
this is, yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is the second time I've seen this, and
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna say the same thing. They should have called this movie Three Extremely Confusing Tales that were shot beautifully, because that's what I get out of it.
How about two confusing tales? How about one pretty straightforward, one confusing, and then let's end it with the most confusing thing you've ever seen in your life.
And I just say one confusing because I
The last
rewatched
one, right?
the second one, and I think I got one of the questions that I was going to pose to you guys. So I'm pretty cool with that. Well, actually, one part of the question. There's still one mystery there as well. So let's get into it. This was a first-time watch for me.
Oh, really?
Oh,
So
okay.
I
And this is
loved
actually the sequel to Three Extremes, even though this is Three Extremes. This
I
is
know there's a
actually
Three
the second
Extremes
one
2. That's the first one then?
that came out in 2002.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't get
fuck
it, but
sakes. Okay.
maybe one was filmed first and then the other one was filmed
Yeah,
second.
I don't know. It gets very confusing. But the
Right.
first story we're going to do by director Fruit Chan is Dumplings. And
I love that name.
I never saw the feature-length film of this. They did a feature-length of this.
Yeah, and I figured why bother? Because how much more can be said about this? I think it's perfect as a short.
Well,
Yeah, I thought it was really well done as a short.
sure,
It's-
but it's like the Countess Dracula idea. So there could be more. There could have been more layers to it. I don't know. Like instead of rubbing blood all over them, they're eating dumplings of.
I think it would have been, and again, I haven't seen it, but if I was to see a feature-length version of it, I'd want to know more about Aunt May.
And I'm sure
Aunt May,
I'm sure
May
that's what
played
they-
by Bai Ling. She's,
Yeah.
I mean, she's could be hundreds of thousands of years old, and the origins of how this started. But the setup
Yeah.
for this one is we have an aging actress named Mrs. Lee who wants to rejuvenate her youth and her beauty to attract the attention of her husband. and her husband's like cheating on her constantly. And this is a straight up allegory for like obsession with like beauty and wanting to look younger, because this woman, Mrs. Lee, she's gorgeous.
Yeah, she is. I agree.
She's gorgeous. I mean, but
and so is the other one. The other one's gorgeous, actually. I prefer...
she's so hot.
It's the exact same theme of Countess Dracula, except she's old and haggard, but that's just because that's the realm they wanted to play in. But it's the exact same theme.
What extents would people go to preserve their youth?
Even after they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh my God. How many times did you gag during this one?
Just once, but it was great. It's beautifully disgusting. It's disgustingly beautiful. It's actually what I wrote. Intense without being a bloodbath. It's gory, but it's not a bloodbath. There's a lot of stuff left to your imagination, but it is cringe-inducing. Yeah. Because it's things that are off-screen, but you know what's happening, and you're just like,
it's also sound design. They added a crunch factor to the dumplings. Every time I heard that crunch, I wanted to gag. I was like, ugh.
It's a sick idea.
Story is, I mean, I don't think we're spoiling anything. I think you kind of learn this pretty quickly, that the dumplings are made from aborted fetuses. Yeah. And I love the story they go into about how different fetuses are better and more potent and more flavorful. And
yeah, it's great. It sounds absolutely horrifying, and it is, but the way it's presented, it's not a freak show.
No.
By any means. And I liked the whole cursed dumplings aspect. Yeah. I love that, but I feel like they abandoned it, and I'm wondering if this is where the feature-length film goes, because suddenly she has a fishy smell, itchy scaling flesh, and then that goes nowhere. So did I miss something? Because Aunt May seemed to be scratching as well. They never talk about her smelling like fish necessarily, but she seems to be scratching at something that it looks like it's dry or scaly flesh. And then there's that whole dinner scene where she's going through it as well, and then we find out it's a cursed dumpling. So we explained it, but they never really seem. It seems to.
Wait, did they actually use the word cursed?
I think they did.
Because what it was, and
cursed baby.
Yep. Cursed baby, not cursed dumpling.
Because it was an incest baby.
Yeah.
It was the 15-year-old girl who was raped by her father.
Yeah. Well, I was trying not to say that as a spoiler, but that's fine.
Oh, sorry. It's hard to not spoil with these, because I want to talk about that, and exactly. the fact that this, I feel like the side effect maybe was because of this was an extremely potent one, because it was cursed, and it was also a boy.
Oh yeah, and they said
and they don't.
Right.
Well, everybody knew that in Asian culture they don't abort boys.
Right.
Girls, throw them in the garbage.
Yeah, that's
another girl. Throw it away.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because then I wonder if they go into that a bit more, so because it kind of happened. They had the dinner party, and then it was kind of a done deal. They didn't really go into it anymore. I thought it was going to be like something that was going to be chronic, and that they're going to come back to, but they really don't. Because at that point, you find out the story of what happened to the 15-year-old girl. You find out the story of what, and then Aunt May kind of gets the fuck out of Dodge, and then the other girl's left high and dry to make her own, and that is like a very haunting final scene. Haunting, my favorite term.
But a tastefully done horrific scene.
Yes.
Like if it was done any other way, it would have been like, okay, this is gratuitous and nasty and pointless. Like how I feel about Aftermath. That short film.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
I hate that film. But this was really well done and says something, and it's just like, oh my God. It's cringeworthy.
It's tough to watch.
It is.
I like it, but that's where I'm saying they're all confusing to me. This one goes along at a normal pace, everything's fine. Then at the end, all of a sudden I get confused, because all of a sudden there's the bleeding, and I understand what's going on with that baby and why, and I get that. But then all of a sudden, they had the scene with a tissue on the bus. Here's a tissue, which is a little funny that they were going to use a tissue to fucking wipe up that. But they do that, and then you see her in the tub. Then when you see like a husband killed a wife or a wife killed a husband, it's flashing these two people that I didn't know who it was.
That was the mother of the young girl who was raped.
So the abortion went wrong. Father. She's dying from something like the failed something happening from the result of the abortion, and then she goes to see Aunt May. Aunt May's being investigated, I guess, because they've tied it to her. So she's got the hell out of Dodge. So she takes off. The cops are there. The main character is seeing this all happen. So she's like, I'm fucked. But meanwhile, she finds out that she's pregnant, so she goes home to give herself an abortion and eat that.
And eat it. See, I got confused because all of a sudden,
Spoiler.
I saw the.
Yes, that's straight up spoiler. But
Right,
that
well,
was the potency of that cursed dumpling. It actually got rid of her infertility, but she was willing to sacrifice her own baby just to preserve her youth.
Yeah.
Which is so fucked up.
And that is fucked. But like I saw Aunt May get ready to leave, and I didn't know why. Like everything happened at once. It went from a scene from bleeding on the bus to freaking a murder scene, which I didn't understand what happened.
That was
and
the
then
reason she
Aunt
got
May
out
leaving.
the reason she got out of Dodge is the mother evidently told the police, "My daughter died from having an abortion done by Aunt May at this location," and they were there, arresting her for killing the husband.
And you got all that based on what they showed us in the film.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I did not.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one was
me.
pretty easy. No, I mean, at first I was like, okay, who's that? Then I kind of pieced it together because there weren't too many characters in this one.
Right.
We want to rate by segment or just rate
Nah.
overall? Rate overall?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so the next segment that we had was by Park Chan-wook, and it is Cut. And this was an interesting story.
I loved it. It was probably my favorite until the last fucking 5 minutes, and then I got completely confused again.
Did you get confused by the location, all of a sudden,
Yes.
where they were?
Yeah.
Yes.
Me too.
I wrote this down. Fairly straightforward, but leaves a couple of questions. Love the reveal of the little girl. And here are my questions, guys. A, so he left the film set to go home, only for the psycho to take him back to the film set? That's
I
one
don't get
question. And then, who the hell was that dead-looking girl sitting beside the director in that one shot when he's on the phone supposedly talking to his wife? I know he talked about driving one girl home, and there's a talk about him having sex with another girl and whatever, but this girl looked dead in his passenger seat. No? I watched
I
it
don't
twice. And he's driving, and it's after he leaves the film set at the beginning of the movie, heading home, and he's on the phone with his wife, and the camera pans back, and you see this girl sitting in the passenger seat, like, head to the side, looking like either she's sleeping or she's fucking
sleeping.
dead.
She was sleeping. He gave her a ride home. She was like one of the assistants. That was the whole point of it, is that he's a successful film director, and he's good looking. He's got a beautiful wife, but he's also super nice.
Yeah.
Super nice. Doesn't yell at any of his actors.
But he mentions that he fucked that girl 3 times before he took her home.
Well, we find that out later.
That's ultimately what we find out, because he's taken hostage, him and his wife, in a sort of deadly home invasion type game.
So
by one of his extras.
Wouldn't it make more sense to be at the house since he's waiting for him at the house? Why wouldn't they just? She's already there, or are we supposed to think was that some sort of convention of the filmmaker to say everything's a set and?
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because that's kind of how I was starting to take it. They were definitely he was definitely at his house, and that's where it took place. But it all kind of blended into one, and you saw even certain shots were similar to the film in which they were making.
And that guy was there. Remember in the beginning when he was making his film, that vampire girl was sucking that guy's neck and he was frozen? Then later on, the guy's in that guy's house, which ends up being a set anyway. So that was just so weird. But see, I think that hurt the film. I understand maybe artistically why he did that, just to be fucking weird, or maybe meta, or maybe even making some type of statement about art imitating life. I don't know. But I was so on board with the freaking, like, the first 20 minutes of this one. I loved it. And I'm not usually a home invasion type of guy, but this, I think, was set up perfectly. It was just I've seen it before, but I forgot this one for some reason. And this time around, I loved it. And it's very unconventional for other Asian cinema that I've seen. I don't see an Asian home invasion type thing. It's usually not psychological this way.
Well,
I love the motive. I love the motive behind this.
Yeah.
The reason why this guy's doing it. It's I've never heard anything like it.
The motive was great, and what he wants him to do is not traditional in the home invasion or torture style movie. I will rephrase from saying torture porn, because it's not that at all. He's just psycho, and I love when he says that's not a confession. He tries to tell him to confess to something, and he confesses to like not liking a filmmaker's use of actors, or I can't remember, but
he was sabotaging that other filmmaker by telling his friends not to be in his movies.
And he's like, that's not a confession, and he tells him what he did to get there and everything else. And I was like, whoa, like your mouth drops just hearing the story. That guy who played the madman, perfect.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I
And-
love his dance number also.
Oh
and
yeah.
The ending, I think, kind of works with it too. I watched it for the second time, and when it switches to that two-dimensional, like everything's a set and everything seems to sort of fold on top of one another, and people are cardboard. Like he even has that visions, the memories of his wife is like looking like a cardboard cutout and everything like that. I think I think he's trying to say, in his mind, everything kind of switches, and I think he's trying to convince himself at the end that he's choking the girl, quote unquote, and it's really his wife, and that's why he keeps calling back to his wife to make it seem almost like in his mind they switched identities. So the little girl that's on the couch, he's saying is his wife, and he's thinking that he's strangling the little girl at that point.
I think that's true. I think that's true, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why they went with the whole set look towards the end. It's almost like a psychological break from reality.
Yeah.
That his worlds have just collided into one. Because I read one theory where somebody said, "Oh, the kid is evil and has powers. Is it telepathic powers or mind control powers, whatever?" I'm like, no,
I can't. You can't
no.
read into that from what they present to you there.
No,
I think
absolutely. I didn't think it was even a thing. I just thought he was so traumatized and delusional. And the whole point of the story is that no matter how perfect everything seems, everyone has their fucking problems. And they came to the surface.
Yet the girl did utter, I will have my revenge, or I will seek my revenge, and she did. She had the revenge. At the end of it, we don't see anything happening to her.
Yeah, but I don't think it was supernatural
saying,
at that point.
There's a spoiler here, guys, that I'm avoiding, so that's why.
No, I don't think it's supernatural, though. I think it's more of making the point, like, you've ruined my life, I will have my revenge, and then it's like, oh, God, how did this get to this point?
No, that's exactly how I took it, but then
Yeah.
you're talking about that theory that you read, and I'm like, well, funny enough, maybe it does work.
And it was very
that way.
popular reading that theory, because people just took it as a straight up, I will have my revenge, and now, the thunder starts and all this shit happens.
I was definitely into it. I seen it a second time, but maybe back to back. I thought, well, I shouldn't say back to back. I watched a week ago, and I revisited it this morning again over breakfast. It was great.
Did you watch Dumplings first too?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I watched Dumplings last night, and then I wanted to watch each one individually and just see how they worked, like separate. I think they all worked fine as individual segments as well.
You should have watched Dumplings while you were like eating eggs.
Yeah,
No?
no.
That would work, I think.
And the guy who played the lead in this, not the extra who's the psycho, but the husband, is the star from I Saw the Devil.
Right, and he's great.
He is terrific. He is a terrific actor.
Yeah, definitely.
There was another thing that was weird because he's a very good-looking guy, and at the end, when he's choking the shit out of his wife to the death, his nose looks like it's peeling or something like that. I don't know if it was just bad makeup or if it was purposely done, because he's fine throughout the rest of the movie. And I noticed this both times I watched it. And again, first time watched, rewatch, and he's choking her, and it's like his nose is kind of like peeling, and it's like almost like his face is a facade. And maybe because he was talking about her and the plastic surgery, I don't know if I'm reading into things, but it was just something. Another layer there that was really weird. I'm like, why did they do that makeup on his nose?
Maybe he ate a bad dumpling. Did it smell fishy?
A crossover story? Yeah, there we go.
It was a fishy, scaly.
I can't add anything more to that because I don't know if I did just read into that more, but it was just a weird thing.
It lost me. I was so into it, and then as soon as the reveal about the location happens, and then a minute later he says, "Well, that's not my wife, that is," or something happened. I got completely confused, and the last 5 minutes I was checked out because I was frustrated. So I really enjoyed it until the end. Another confusing one for me.
What?
And I should watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to look at it just straightforward. At this point, we're inside our lead character's mind, and everything is just broken and destroyed, so it wouldn't be coherent and linear and make any sense. So that's how I took that, the last 5 minutes.
Whose mind? The killer or the victim?
The victim.
Look, he just tried to choke out the kid twice and
Yeah.
thought he did it, and he and was insane, and then he finds out. Now the guy does think he knows already from his reaction, but his wife is having an affair, and I think it was him just saying, because as he's uttering the words back to him, I can forgive it, or whatever. I don't think he can, and that's why he's trying to picture that it's that kid again, and he's choking the life out of the wife. I think he just mentally switched the characters so that he would forget about it the next day. He's not killing his wife, he's killing that little kid to save everything. That's how he's getting himself through it to end it all. And then the next day, quote unquote, he'll be fine.
Huh.
Wow.
Interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I like that, though.
Certainly thought-provoking. Wow.
Well done.
All right, well, let's get to the last one, which is by far the most confusing.
Yeah, well, it's Takashi Miike, and
That explains it.
he's always confusing, and it's called Box.
It's like a David Lynch, I kind of find it. It's very... There's probably a lot more layers that I didn't even get to. It plays out like a dream / nightmare.
It's just one continuous dream, and we have Kyoko, who's our lead character. She's a 25-year-old novelist, and she just keeps having nightmares of her past experience as a performer in a circus with her twin sister when she was 10.
Yeah, was he related to those girls? Because why would they be there at that age? Were they slaves sold to this guy or something? That's what I was confused about. Why would two 10-year-olds be working at the circus and living there just with this strange man?
I think I read somewhere that he's their benefactor.
I hope it wasn't her dad of what happened.
No.
No, it couldn't have been a relative.
No.
I mean, it could have, but
No,
it wasn't played off that way. Even he could have been a pervy uncle, but he wasn't, I don't think. You know what I mean?
It was almost like they were married to the circus, as am I, and and he was like the ringleader, and they had this connection and bond, and that was it. Like hey, it's called The Box. The music sounds like a music box throughout. They're two ballerinas. There's a lot like that stuff. The whole dream, like you said, it's a dream. She's sort of telling the dream. Again, I had to watch this twice, and like I'm probably peeling one layer back, and there's probably so much more that I'm missing, but the death is what has haunted her, and I guess through memory and guilt, she's trying to relive this, and that's what's keeping them connected. And then at the very end, they reconnect, and he kills the surviving sister, who's now in her 20s, and as he says, together a perfect pair. And then they're physically connected, literally connected, at the end.
Oh boy!
For the reveal, and it can't be anything else than some twisted nightmare dream, because the fact that she's still been preserved at a young age on one end, and she's at the age that she was killed at the other. So
you think it's still a dream at that point?
It has to be.
Right?
Even though they say it's reality.
Be...
She says it's reality, but it can't be.
Well,
why would that place still fucking be there in the middle of that place? The tent's still going to be there and nobody's there? They're just going to happen to show up there and that guy's going to have...
a nightmare, but the part where it's revealed that they're conjoined, I'm like, okay, this is reality, and they're both dreaming and having nightmares, and their nightmares are kind of messing with each other, and it's all becoming one big jumbled mess. But like Christian says, like, why is one preserved as a 10-year-old and one's still 25-year-old?
Because I think they're connected and reconnected in like limbo or in death, and that's how they're preserved, and that's how I read into it.
Maybe she did kill her sister, and then the end is just a big reveal that she's still carrying her around, like she carries the guilt.
The guilt. That's how I took it both times, because this was the most confusing one to me, Dave, as well.
Definitely.
And there was one other line that I fucking didn't write down. I wrote together a perfect pair, and he said one other thing, essentially of them being together again.
But he didn't really, you know what though, he didn't molest Shoko. You know, I think we were kind of hinting that he was kind of like a creepy guy, but he really wasn't.
I don't know, he was sleeping with her. He
was just laying there, but it was completely
like Michael Jackson.
It didn't strike me as anything sexual. It just struck me that he was sleeping, she was sleeping. Like, that's it.
Why would he only pick the one girl and not the other?
I don't think he did. I think it's more of a perception.
No, because remember, the one girl was given something and the other one wasn't. Remember, she said, I know you get
the necklace. But I feel like it's weird because they did the exact same routine. So that's why I'm thinking like the dreams aren't making sense.
It doesn't, but it's beautifully shot and
it's
interesting, you know?
He's an interesting director. I mean, you can't deny that. All three of these movies are done beautifully.
But I feel like there's something there because of the fact that Higata and Yoshi are the same person also.
I don't know.
I didn't get what that was trying to say. Like, here he is, he's their benefactor, and he's running the circus, and he's being hard on them, and then he's this loving sort of carefree publisher. I don't know. I was confused.
This is what I love talking about this stuff. I would like to hear people chime in on Facebook page as well, just your thoughts and theories on what you think. There's obviously, is it there to make sense, or are we trying to make it make sense?
Yeah, I don't think it does make sense, and I just think he's that type of director. He just puts beautiful things on there, fucked up things, and it doesn't make sense. Because I've watched I love Audition, and I've watched that movie like 5 times or 6 times, and I want to make sense of it, and I just cannot. I want to be able to explain it away and say, well, this is this and this is that, but I just honestly think that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say this is my favorite. It might be the best one, but it's the most confusing, so I can't really say it's my favorite because I'm not really sure if my interpretation is correct or if there is a correct interpretation.
I think they're all
It doesn't
really
have
good.
to be correct. Sorry, connect. I'm still on the connect. It doesn't have to be correct. That's what, at the end of the day, this is what we do, right? It's about our interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got really out there for me when Kyoko was being buried in her own box, and I'm like, okay, so everybody's trapped in their boxes. They're suffocating. They're claustrophobic. It's symbolizing their desire to be free of one another. So that's when I was like, okay, they're conjoined. So that's the reality, and their dreams are kind of their suppressed desires to be separated from each other. But then you see one young, one old, and you're like, that can't be.
They're connected through death. They're connected again through death because they have that scene of them as twins or conjoined. And you're like, what the fuck? And it can't be, as you just said. And it's through death because then he throws the shovel down on the grave that he's filled in the snow.
So they're kind of stuck in this purgatory now where they're...
I think whether it be purgatory or whether it be heaven or whether it be hell, they're connected again.
Would it be heaven, though, if they're connected? Wouldn't it be hell? Because the desire to be separated was there?
They woke up together and they seemed to be kind of, happy to be together with one another.
That's true, but they both had bad dreams. I'm making myself more confused. Yeah, I'm making myself very confused. I'm even more confused now, but like you said, all 3 were really well done.
Yep, yeah. And maybe Raphael has the answers, and she's the one that put this up to it. Maybe he is, has a little bit of expertise in the film and the theories, and who knows. So, Raphael, if you do have any information you'd like to convey, whatever, message me or us or whatever, or email us,
Yeah, email us your thoughts on Box.
Yeah, Box.
Or all of them, for that matter. Guys, I again, first time watch, and I did, like I said, I did watch it twice, but I hope this doesn't sound like I'm coming in too low, because I did really enjoy this a lot, but I give it an 8 out of 10.
That's not too low, because I'm even lower just because of I can't make sense of things enough. But I really enjoyed it, and for me, I'm like a 7.5. So
yeah, that's where I am as well, 7.5. I kind of had everything in that 7 to 8 range.
Good stuff.
Really good film. I'm glad it was suggested.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Raphael. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, one more, and this was Ryan Pascal, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, who joined, and then 1 month after, he already leaped up to to the next one.
Wow.
So yeah. So he jumped right up. So I'm like, yeah. What do you want to watch? And he's like, 19. This is what he says. Let me try to do this. I'm a dedicated Headite now. I'd love to hear your opinions of The Haunting from 1963. It's the sort of ghost story I love, with oodles of atmosphere and spooky lighting, and still gives me chills today. Hope you guys enjoy it as much as I do. Thanks, Ryan. This is Ryan Pascal. So here we are, The Haunting. I'm really, really curious because we talked a little bit in chat throughout the week, and these 2 gentlemen made some comments, and I'm interested to.
I've seen this before as well.
Same as I.
Was this a first time watch for you, Dave?
Yes.
Okay.
I've owned it for years and never got around to it, and this was perfect because he brought it up. I'm like, look at that. I think it just arrived on Shudder or something. I don't know why. I saw it come up recently. I was like, I think I'm going to watch this movie. And then I didn't. And then like 2 or 3 days after, I got the message from Ryan. I'm like, great. Ultimately, though, I didn't watch it on Shudder. I watched it on my DVD because I was able to utilize a little 1.5 action when
Nice. I have a description of this that's pretty common, but I'm gonna add a little bit to it, and it's style over wasted substance. Meaning there was substance there in this story that I really wish they had dove into more, but I felt like it was wasted. And this movie, just for some reason, I mean, it's a little bit longer than your average horror movie at almost an hour and 50 minutes, but it just, the pacing was just dragging for me.
I hear you, man.
A lot of dialogue.
A lot of dialogue. That's fine. I'm not opposed to that. And I'd seen it before, and I remember being higher on it, so I was really looking forward to this. But I felt like there were so many interesting things about some of these characters, and they never really got into it enough.
And I mirror pretty much everything you said. I remember loving this and wanting to revisit it, and I just haven't, so it was a perfect excuse to revisit it. Look, I love The Innocents. We all reviewed it. I think we all came in pretty high with it when we did it.
Yeah.
Season 1. This movie has dated poorly now, but before Ryan, you go crazy, go, what are you talking about? Let me explain. The movie is absolutely beautiful to look at. A beautiful black and white film. The house itself is menacing. The architecture, the film work, all masterful.
Yeah. How about the whole idea that the house is built on like just slightly off angles? That was really cool also.
Well, almost like the Winchester, I mean, not to that same extent, but that type of idea. From a cinematic standpoint, I said I can't compliment the production enough.
Yeah.
Beautiful to look at, and that good old school like cinematography, haunting ghosts and whatever, the shadows, beautiful. So my problem here, and at least for me anyway, is that it's horribly dated, as I mentioned. And what I mean by that is, yes, I know it's old. I know it's from 1963. What I'm saying is because that would have been fresh back then, and this is totally not fair. I could already hear people going, what the fuck, Christian? But it's that every damn haunted house and poltergeist movie that followed used everything that was created, or not even maybe created, but used in this movie and upped it, and we've seen it verbatim, and they've become tropes. And I'm talking about the loud noises, the slamming doors, and this, that, and the other thing, that by going back to revisit this film, it ultimately feels like I've been like, well, I've been there, done that, and even though this is old, it's so ho-hum. I just couldn't help feel disconnected and ultimately uninterested in what was happening.
I felt like things lingered too long. I felt like the banging lingered too long. I felt like some of the shots lingered too long. I felt like everything was just like a few seconds longer than it should have been.
Well, it's almost 2 hours, an hour and 51 minutes, whatever it may be. And again, they could have trimmed a good 10, 20 minutes out of it, and I don't think you would have lost the idea. And I don't know if you were, Brandon, when you were going on about what you wish it dove into, but I think they tried to suggest it because the screenwriter really wanted to make it seem like this might have been her nervous breakdown and all about Nora's nervous breakdown and all maybe in her head. But the actual author of The Haunting of Hill House, Shirley Jackson, said, oh, that's a nice idea, but this is a ghost story.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
It should be. Fuck that psychological shit.
Yeah. In fact, some of the haunting, specifically the writing on the wall, I just was like, oh, Nell wrote that, but whatever. Like, it's still a ghost story. That was the only part where I thought maybe it was a psychological breakdown, but I only entertained that idea for like a split second.
Man, I didn't know Shirley Jackson wrote this.
The actual novel. Yeah.
Yeah. No relation to Lamont Jackson. Didn't you feel like the setup was very quick? You know, Hugh Crane. It's the Crane house. He built this house for his wife and his daughter. His wife crashed on the way to the house and died.
Stuff.
I love it, but it felt like so quickly. Like, let's rush. Abigail lived in the house. Her caretaker died and hung herself, and her shoes fell off. My shoes fell off. How about the second Mrs. Crane? The second Mrs. Crane who fell down the stairs. Did you see the look on her face as she fell down the stairs? I nearly lost my shit. That was one of the three funniest things in the movie. That, the other woman's shoes falling off, and there was one point where Nell pulls a terror train, and she starts dancing and gets entwined in curtains.
Yeah, you know what that reminded me of? Not even Terror Train. Remember that To All a Good Night when that chick at the end started spinning around for... That's what dude.
Yeah.
That was it.
I love the setup. I mean, Dr. Markaway, he, good character. Russ Tamblyn, kind of a throwaway character, but he was there for the comic relief. Luke. And
He was great. You're all great, I thought.
but I really I wanted more dialogue with Nell and with Theo, because Theo
was so hot.
yeah, Theo was gorgeous. She has these genuine telepathic powers. Nell clearly had some sort of poltergeist story from a childhood where it rained rocks in her house for 3 days, and then
Carrie?
kind of just throw it away for what you say?
What I say, Carrie, the fucking raining rocks in the house.
Exactly.
I thought of that too. It's crazy that it was so well made that I was forgiving of some things. The pace was just a pace. That was my problem. I was just like, oh, this is going on a little bit long. But I'm not saying it was devoid of scares or entertainment. It was creepy. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't say it was scary. That part has left, and maybe the nostalgia of childhood. If I thought it was if I thought it was really scary back in the day, maybe that would have carried over like it did for me with The Innocents. I didn't think it was really scary, but there was enough creepiness, and again, it's just the masterful filmmaking here that I really liked.
Very homage to Psycho.
Well,
I thought so. First of all, they use the name Crane, and second of all, the whole idea that Nell is escaping and kind of running away, looking back from a bad situation, is very similar to Marion.
You know what? I fucked up. I was thinking I had the years reversed. So I was going to say nope because Psycho wasn't made yet, but it was 3 years old. So my mistake. I switched the years.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
That's okay. If I'm
wrong.
wrong, I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Wrong, sir. Wrong. No,
The novel was written, though. It lacked something in the story. It just lacked something.
No, I'm there with you. I thought I was going to come in here and I thought we were going to be talking about something that was going to ring a 9 or 10 out of 10 for me. And that's why I think I was like, what? There's a couple of scenes there that I do remember in my psyche from being younger, but it just didn't have that wow factor.
Exactly. The one scene that still gave me the creeps was when the trapdoor opens and Mrs. Markaway's face is there.
Which is crazy. Like she totally lured the flies up there. She went crazy within a day.
Yeah, right. No shit. It's like, what do you call it? Megan's Law. Or what's that movie? What's that movie we talk about? Gerald's Game. Sorry.
Yeah, Gerald's Game. 3 hours later.
I'm like, Megan's Law? What's Megan's Law? No.
How quickly she fell off the fucking wagon, that girl. She went batshit crazy in fucking Gerald's Game. Quickly. But anyway, I have a different experience.
Yeah, I want to hear. You haven't said anything. I want to hear what you guys say.
Sorry.
No, I think this is 63. I don't know. When did The Innocents come? When did these other films come? When did House on a Haunted Hill come? Later, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Innocents was before. That was probably the oldest movie that we did, if I remember correctly. The Innocents.
And Dead of Night.
Don't make me apologize for Dead of Night again. Hugo was scary.
I liked Hugo.
Funny enough, The Innocents was only 2 years before. It was 61. I actually thought it was a little earlier than that, but no, 61.
I think this is trend-setting. I think that it was ahead of its time. Like, the haunted history stuff, yes, it was rushed, and I wouldn't have minded if we had a half hour more of that and a little bit less of the getting to know you amongst the characters. That would have been cool. I feel you guys on that, but I think it was ahead of its time in, like, so many ways. Like, after this movie was made, I can see the impression that it made on other films that came after. And I have to give it props. It actually kind of reminds me of a giallo in certain ways. It's the way it looks. The strangers meeting for the first time, like they did in House on a Haunted Hill and like other horror movies after, I think was originated here, at least to my knowledge. I don't know. But
House on a Haunted Hill came out in 59.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll say that then I'm wrong. Okay, I thought it was later.
But they're two different type of movies. House on Haunted Hill was more gimmick related, William Castle style, and I think this one was trying to be more of a serious horror film. But this is what I was trying to say. I hear what you're saying, Dave, and I know I cut you off here, but I agree with you. From the trend set, the downfall is going back to revisit it. This one is so dated that I found that I was like, oh yeah, loud banging, okay. Great. I've seen it 1,000 times now.
I like that. It's definitely trend-setting in the sense that less is more approach. The banging, the more psychologically, like, not knowing what's there, not seeing it, not necessarily hearing it. Like, is there something I'm missing out of the corner of my eye? That type of thing. It's really more scary than if they have, jump scares and floating ghosts around the house. But like you said, I just needed more character stuff, and they tried to get into it more with Nell and Nell's backstory, especially her story with her mother mirroring what happened with Abigail, which I thought was interesting. I just felt like there was a lot of filler, maybe too much with the banging, too much with the rubber doors. Like, it was great, don't get me wrong.
Oh, see, I love the rubber doors.
I love the rubber door, but it's like, instead of giving us 10 minutes of them laying in bed screaming at that banging, give us more Dr. Markaway and Nell talking. Give us more Nell and Theo. I wanted more dialogue.
More dialogue? See,
Yeah, I wanted more backstory. I really wanted to get to know these characters even more.
Wow, I thought we had entirely... That's my complaint. It was entirely too much dialogue, I thought. I was more content with the other shit. I didn't have any... I liked all the characters, too. I liked every character in the film, which is unusual. And what's his name? Tamblyn. He was funny. He's like, the only one way to argue with a woman, don't. He's funny.
Yeah, that was great, yeah.
Yeah, he had like 2 or 3 good like one-liners. And the guy said food for thought, frozen food later. There was a couple things. The creepy laughter I thought was great. I was into it. And then there's some shots made in this film that for 1963 are surprising. They actually remind me of some of the shots that Raimi did in the first Evil Dead. Yeah, just weird shit and the way showing the house from different angles and doing cool things like that. I was into it. Granted, because you guys told me that it was kind of slow, I had my trusty freaking PlayStation, and when I saw things slowing down, I would put on the captions and I would 1.5 it. And that's not an insult to the movie, because I did that for like maybe 20 slashers I watched. I have found a way, like I used to say I only use 1.5 when the movie starts to suck and I just want to get through it, but I want to finish it at the same time. Now I also use it for other means too. It started with me listening to podcasts at 1.5 and getting used to hearing that. Now I can actually watch movies on 1.5 as long as I put on the captions so I don't miss anything in the dialogue. Yeah. So I'm getting a little used to it. So I'm not insulting the film by saying that I went back and forth with the 1.5. So maybe that helped. Maybe that helped my experiences because you guys kind of prepped me for it, saying that it was pretty slow.
Maybe.
It was kind of slow. It felt like it had good ideas on both ends, from a haunted house story and from giving you this aspect that it might be a psychological breakdown, but it didn't blend the two stories enough.
I thought it was perfect and self-explanatory. 100%. She kept saying, the house wants me, over and over again. You know shit's fucking afoot here. She wasn't imagining it because other people were experiencing it too. And when the shit went down at the end, it all made perfect sense. And you know me, that's the ending I want. I think they gave it to us. I don't think there was any bull, because the girl even said.
Why do you think the house wanted Nell?
I have no idea. I didn't read that deeply into it. I just figured the house just wants what it wants. You know?
No, that's fine. I mean, I just wanted specifically like why it wanted Nell.
Because she had nothing else. Because she had a miserable life and she was in turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
And it wanted her.
I mean, that's fair. I'm not arguing. I'm just genuinely asking. So.
No.
Yeah, because I mean that was the only thing. Like I said earlier, when that writing was on the wall, where I was like, oh, maybe she wrote that. But then, you know, if the house genuinely wanted her, maybe the house learned how to write in cursive. Bring Nell home.
I don't know, and I don't care. I'm glad that it ended the way it did. I'm glad that she had the premonitions, and we were with her for most of the film with her narration. And I like the way it ultimately ended. I'm not blowing the film.
No, the ending was actually really good because Mrs. Markaway at that point confirms it that it's a ghost story, that there was something in the car with her, that she didn't crash that car on purpose.
No, it didn't. It wouldn't have made sense. It just, I don't know. That's all.
No, it would have totally given into the psychological story, like, oh, she's having a breakdown, she's just obsessed with this house, whereas no, she was really being called to this house.
Yeah, and I like it. Well, I want to know how you got. What are you guys rating it? Because we might be closer than you think.
I'm super low because, like Christian says, you could still recognize like the great things that it does. But I remember the first time watching this. If you had asked me before I watched it again what my rating was for this, I probably would have said like 9 out of 10.
Yeah, same here.
But the pace really, really hurt it for me, and I just wanted a little bit more from different aspects of the story, and I give it a 7.5 out of 10.
See, I give it a 7.
I
said I'm not blowing it. I said it's a good film.
And I'm a 7 too.
hearing you guys talk, because I was originally at a 7, but I came up a half a point because of some of the things you guys were saying. I'm like, you know what? That was good. All right, that makes sense. That's good. But yeah,
Well,
it's just the pacing.
Let me just break it down. You said it was fucking coma-inducing. If somebody says that about a movie, I'm expecting a 4. You know what I mean?
Well,
doesn't sound coma-inducing at 7.5.
Honestly, we watch a lot of movies, so you know a 4 when you see a 4. Like, I couldn't, in my right mind, give this movie a 4. I'm in no rush to go back and watch this again anytime soon. I probably will at some point, but it's not a 4 out of 10.
And I did fall asleep after the first, I think, 30 minutes, but that was just because I did put it on late the first time. But I texted you guys, I said, oh, it's slow. And then you put coma-inducing. I said, yeah, I know, I hear ya. But I mentioned all the great things about it from a filmmaking standpoint of the look of it. And there are still great parts to this movie. And I came in at a 7 as well. I just thought, if you, like Brandon said, I mirror exactly what he said. You asked me before, oh, yeah, that was a 9 out of 10. No question. Well, this time, 7.
There you go. It's only as good as the last time I watched it.
Yeah, a lot of people will be like, 7, you guys are fucking nuts.
Like, absolutely. I hear that.
Without a doubt. But you know what?
I'm trying to be as honest as I possibly can be and not being, oh, it's a classic movie. It's got to be a 10 out of 10. That doesn't always happen. Like, for Psycho, it did. But that's one of my favorite movies. Rosemary's Baby, it did. But it's another fantastic. Like, I mean, it's another one of my favorites. It just, there's a reason why some of them, too, hold up to that standard. This one, for me, was good. I'm glad we saw it again, and it was a good movie.
Yep.
Yep, right on. Cool. Right. All right. Well, that's the end of that section, Triple R's. We're going to take a quick break and then go to our second review. So, flips.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
I tell you, ladies and germs, that girlfriend of mine makes me so crazy. She told me she thought she'd look good in something long and flowing. So I threw her in the Mississippi.
Are you seeking discussion of horror on the small screen? Then look no further than Evil Episodes Podcast. Join your hosts, Mike Nyman, Brian Sammons, Jamie Sammons, and a large variety of guests as we break down all the favorites and not so favorites in horror TV. So grab a snack.
Oh, wow! Candy critters!
And of course, be sure to grab and join us for Evil Episodes Podcast on the Horrorphilia Network and Legion Network of Podcasts.
Next up is Twins of Evil from 1971, directed by John Huff. A religious sect led by Gustav Weil hunts all women suspected of witchcraft, killing a number of innocent victims. Young Kathy, Gustav's niece, will involve herself in a devilish cult and become an instrument of justice in the region. Wait a second, that's wrong. I read this directly from the B, and Kathy is actually Gustav's wife, and it's actually Frida who they're talking about, Frida and Maria, who are the twins, and it's Frida who will involve herself in the devilish cult. I didn't even read this before. I just pulled up the B, I read it, but that's wrong.
Oh, she blows. Yeah, it is wrong. But
yeah,
you know what? I just want to say out of the gate, director of photography, Dick Bush. That was the guy's name, Dick Bush.
Nice.
The grade 1 in me was like,
Nice.
I should probably grade
it's
3.
Like, it's like George W. Bush and Dick Cheney.
Dick Bush.
Yeah, Dick
Uncle
Bush.
Gustav, the great Peter Cushing.
Oh man, how about it was so weird for me to see him in an evil type of role. And I'll go a step further, talking about the Emperor. Weird, huh? See, Star Wars connection? And, man, I dug it.
Well, it's weird because he's evil in the sense that because we're watching it, but for the times, it's like there was so much like paranoia. He believes he's genuinely hunting and burning witches.
He is, but I mean, he's very quick to call anything a witch.
Oh yeah, he sees a girl. Yeah, she was wearing the cross, which should have been like a immediate sign that okay, this girl is not with the devil. Wouldn't the cross have burned her? But no, he just pulls it off her and then sets her on fire.
Done. And those twins, they were gorgeous, eh?
Oh man,
gorgeous.
God.
Again, a couple things, Brandon. You know that like Fright Night was a homage to all the sort of the Hammer style vampire movies.
Yeah.
But this one, this one there's some imagery right from this movie that like just made its way into Fright Night.
Yeah, like the Count. Every time the Count opened his mouth, I was like, "This is Fright Night."
It is amazing. It's great. Once again, I'm saying like a broken record, but it's layered with tons of atmosphere. You got the villages, forests, trees, horses, carriages, castles, cemeteries, the smoke, the fog machines. Everything's like coming up, like the moors and whatever. I love it. Torches, more nudity, and lots of day for night photography that puts the burning to shame. The burning almost seems like fucking high end cinematography here. I mean, they use it because they wanted to get a clear picture to show you what was going on in the middle of the night. But people are like going out in the middle of the night. It looks like a Sunday afternoon in this movie.
That's funny, dude. This is my first one. So this is my very first Hammer horror movie.
What a way to start, then. I thought it was a good way to start.
I very much enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting the twins to be literal, and I was happy when it was. I was like, oh, look at this.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like one woman playing same parts or actual twins, and then I had to look it up.
They were actual twins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought the bad girl, although I liked her more because she was the bad girl, and the way she acted, they were both attractive. But if you get right down to it, if you just show me a picture, I thought the good girl was actually prettier.
I did too. That's funny you say that. I was immediately attracted to Maria over Frida.
Just on looks alone, but once things started getting rolling and the personality with perhaps
I don't know. There was one scene of Maria laying in bed and her nipples hanging out. I'm just like, oh my god, I wish I was a nipple.
What about that sex scene that cut to her stroking the candle? Like,
yes, so sexy.
Like, come on, you're like, that's a hand job right there.
Oh.
She was like, oh yeah, look at this candle.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
This takes place in the town of Karnstein. And Count Karnstein is obviously the head. Just like in Countess Dracula, he's the head, so you can't really mess with him, but he's believed to be a worshiper of the devil.
Yep. And the whole town doesn't want to fuck with him.
Yeah, because they'll be put to death if they mess with him, but then ultimately he sacrifices one of the girls who's in the play. He has his assistant Diedrich who sets up these like macabre plays, but he doesn't like the play, so he's like, get the hell out of here. And he's like, leave the girl. And then it's like, I'll just fucking stab her and sacrifice her to a past relative who evidently turned out to be a vampire, this Markala, who awakens and then turns Karnstein into a vampire.
Yeah, then he disappeared. Why did that happen? Why did he come in there and then turn him, and then we never saw from him again? The guy that turned him.
It wasn't. It was a woman.
Okay, then it was a woman. Either way, somebody showed up, and they turned him into a vampire, and then we never saw that character that turned him again.
Yeah, I don't know why she wouldn't have stayed around. She evidently was raised because it was her blood dripping into the tomb. It was her tomb that the girl was tied on top of.
Yeah.
Their play, but whatever. I think the whole point is he's a vampire now, and he's supposed to, carry on from there, doing the devil's bidding.
And that's where the other Fright Night reference for me came in. It was like how the female, I guess Frida vampire, like Amanda Burris in Fright Night, bore a page. I think that's exactly what they're going after. The Twins of Evil vampire look. And when she got her hand burned with the cross, I'm thinking of Evil Ed's head with the cross, and it's exactly like verbatim the same thing. And I was getting giddy watching what I would assume. I know it's one of many films that was inspiration, but seeing that inspiration play out, because I hadn't watched this one either. This was a first for me for Twins of Evil anyway. Like I said, the ones I'd watched were the Dracula ones and the Phantom of the Opera. So Twins of Evil, first time watch. And I loved it. And it's a fast-paced movie. Like, this is like, you got vampires, you got fangs galore. It's like, the fangs look uncomfortable because everyone's like, it's almost like they don't want them in their mouth when they're walking around with them.
Yeah, this was kind of pretty simple to follow because you had the Brotherhood who were out just burning witches. You had the vampires, and you had Anton and his sister. I forgot her name. Whatever. Ingrid. And they run the school, and he's sort of like a level-headed, rational person in this crazy times of religious fanaticism, and he's like, stop burning these innocent girls.
Yeah,
right.
That's great.
He's like, at least test to see if they're evil. Just put the cross up in front of them.
Right, man.
And he's telling them, he's like, you can't burn them. You can't burn vampires. It won't do anything. You got to decapitate them or stake them through the heart.
Yes. Gore. We got gore in this one.
And in the last 8 minutes, shit hits, like, shit doesn't literally hit the fan, but shit hits the fan. The blood flows in the last 8 minutes. It goes crazy.
Yeah.
And this is probably, if you saw this one first, and then you're watching Countess Dracula, then maybe you'd see what I'm, a little bit more of an idea of where I'm going. Like, they ramped it up for the final reel. And it's like boom, boom, boom. And I'm talking about, you get like a burnt out eye. You get a machete to the head that rivals Dawn of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead came out like 7 years later. You get a good staking and a shocking beheading.
Yes. Yeah, very shocking beheading.
It was like an unexpected death. Like, I wasn't expecting that. I thought they were going to kill the head vampire and save the day. Nope.
No hesitation either. Just grab her by a fucking head and just take it clean off.
And I don't think it's spoiler to say that when the main vampire is defeated, because he's defeated, he gets speared and he's revealed to be something even more frightening, and that's bald. The first dissolve is to him being bald.
I like that dissolve they did. That was creepy.
Yeah, man. No, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. But again, this one, I'm sure you can find some sort of hidden meaning in the sexuality presented throughout the film, maybe a sign of the times, the hidden repression. There's always been that in vampire-esque films, but I thought it was pretty straightforward, and there was nothing wrong with it. It was entertaining from start to finish. I'm very happy for the recommend. That's my notes. I went through my notes. I blew through them. I thought I had a lot more written down, but I guess it was just more straightforward, but not in a bad way. Loved it.
There were a few funny things. I found it funny that Karnstein was such a Karnstein. Karnstein, he's a Jewish attorney. I'm going to see Karnstein this week. Karnstein. He makes Frida go first when they're leaving. He's like, no, you go first. You go check out outside. Yeah.
Chivalry is dead at that point.
Yeah, you go first. But there was one really funny moment right after Karnstein finds out that Anton told them about how to defeat the vampires. He bitch slaps Frida.
Yes, and then picks her right up.
Yeah. Like, he's angry, just bitch slaps her for no reason. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Leave Frida alone. What did she do?
But then he picks her up immediately afterwards. So it was like mixed signals. He was like, and then, come here. What the fuck? Are you a nice guy or not? I mean, who the fuck does that? Usually if you bitch smack somebody, you're not going to get up and pick them up. At least not right away.
The creepy bodyguard, that big dude, the big black dude.
Oh, yeah.
Who couldn't speak or can only speak in sign language?
Yeah.
His name was Lamont. No, it was actually Joachim.
Joaquin? Yeah.
Joachim.
He was cool, though, man.
Yeah, he was.
Cool.
He kind of just, blended in when he's, right out there just checking everything out. He was cool.
See, when I look at my notes, one of them says, didn't know he couldn't talk. Wasn't there something in this film that didn't make sense? Like, why wouldn't this character know already that he couldn't talk? Does that ring a bell to anybody?
Maybe you're thinking the Count was like, speak up, Joaquin.
No, I don't know. It's okay. I'm just like I said. Christian mentioned his notes. I was looking at mine, and they say, why seeing double? ?
I also thought it was funny how non-hesitant Anton was to originally throw the spear when the Count was still holding on to Maria. And one of the Brotherhood members had to be like, no, she's too close. Like he's the greatest spear thrower in the land.
Fucking javelin over here.
Did you say your note was why seeing double?
Yes, why seeing
double. So that guy, I think they're just playing with that twin motif. But I don't know why he would see double there, because he sees her and it does that and it makes two of her. And I'm like, but why is he seeing double? Because he wasn't, at that point, he hadn't been attacked by her or drugged or anything. So
that's what I'm saying.
It was a weird. Now that you mentioned that, it was weird. I also love after she was bitten, she goes back to the house, and this is for the audience's sake because she keeps admiring the fact that she can't see herself in the mirror.
Right.
But if you can't see yourself in the mirror, what the fuck are you looking at? Like, hey, there's me not in the mirror again.
She knows what she looks like. Yeah. I'd be smiling too if I looked like that.
That's true. And I would be excited if all of a sudden you weren't showing up in a mirror. Wouldn't you walk in front of a mirror all the time just to fucking admire that? Say, oh my God, look, I can't be seen. Amazing.
It looked like you're looking at a window then. You wouldn't even know.
And
Yeah,
in terms of
it
seeing
make
the
you happy.
double, I think that was Dietrich, not that wasn't the bodyguard. That was Dietrich, the one who sets up all the
Yes.
plays. I think he was kind of lured by her. I think it was having to do with the fact that she's a vampire now, and she has these powers.
Oh, did the old Jedi mind trick shit? The vampire
Yo,
Jedi mind trick.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, no, that
And
is true. Like I look into my little goosey eyes.
Oh yeah, that works. I have another note. This is switcheroo.
Yes, the
Why?
switcheroo.
Switcheroo. Why didn't she speak up? So the girl had an opportunity when a switcheroo went. Someone had an opportunity to speak up to save
Yes, they
themselves,
did.
and they didn't. I was like, what the fuck?
I feel, well, she was drugged, so I feel like even when this person is about to meet their demise, they're still kind of loopy.
Okay.
Because Anton has to come out of nowhere too. But I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
I was like, just say something.
Yeah.
Hey, Unc, it's me.
Hey, Unc.
The good twin.
I know what they should have done. Honestly, what she really should have done in that situation was pray, pray. We've got to pray just to make it today. Hammer.
Problem.
Sorry.
We wanted music in this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hammer. I gotta get on my Hammer references throughout the show.
We know.
Shit. No, we can only do this one time. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, just more great set pieces, more great atmosphere, great acting, beautiful women, fast paced. All three of these movies that we watched were like around that hour and a half mark, and they moved.
It's one good thing about them. That's sure.
And after Twins of Evil and Countess Dracula, that's 2 for 2 for me.
Yeah, I was a little higher on this one than Countess, and I was a 7.5.
I'll tell you what. I utilized a quarter. I went 7.75. How about that?
And I'm actually a tiny bit lower on this than Countess. I'm at an 8.
There you
wow.
go.
Yeah, I'm really, man, I'll tell you what. I gotta give props to Derek, man. He picked good. I even told him, like, you did good, man.
Look at you.
You did us good, D.
You done good. You done good, D.
DB.
Damn. You're on. You're pimping it. You're pimping Hammer like freaking the 2 Big MC did back in the day.
Hey. It's a new style of horror that I hadn't seen before that I'm really now getting myself into.
Right on. All right. Well, then that's that. That's the second one. We're gonna do a couple quick trips, and then we're on with the Vampire Circus to close it out. So, how many do we have for these trips?
Well, I know you're covering a couple that I've seen, so I'm just gonna chime in and talk on yours with you. But I only have one of my own.
Okay. Well, what's up, C?
No, I just have one, and then one that I think we're doing together.
Okay. If you have one that nobody else has seen, go ahead and do it.
That's Inside.
Okay.
Inside 2018. Okay, this is not going to be short. I actually took a lot of notes. I rewatched it again because I wanted to come in fair.
Wait, hold on. Let me hit mute first. Okay, go ahead.
If you hit mute, that just means we can't hear you. It's perfect for everybody.
It was supposed to be a joke about not hearing you, but it didn't play out right.
I don't know.
Brilliant.
And I wanted to make sure I told everybody about that.
Awesome.
I watched this movie and immediately gave it a 2 out of 10. I said I'm a huge fan of the 2007 French Extreme original, and I thought and this one was made for the hand that rocks the cradle crowd. I'm not obviously the target audience, but I decided to rewatch it to be way more objective. Excuse me. Right out of the gate, we get a stat card that reads, in recent years in the U.S. alone, there have been over 306 cases of infant abduction. 10% of these cases happened when the mother was still pregnant. I mean, right out of the gate, I think this is a kick to the nuts. That's it, because that was narrative play in the original film. Plot, story elements that we learn as the original movie plays out. Not something that's just handed to us in a platter right out of the gate. So I'm like immediately pissed off. I'm like, well, why would you put that? You're pretty much telling everybody what the movie is about without them experiencing the movie. Setting it up with that stat card. I'm like, why? I didn't think it was necessary at all. But then we get something good. The opening car crash. I mean, it's nuts. It's almost overdone, but it's so crazy. Definitely shocking to see. And the best part of it, there's no baby cam, like in the original movie.
No angry baby banging on the inside?
No angry baby. We now cut to an ultrasound, and Sarah, the main character, is pregnant, of course, in a doctor's office. She states that she doesn't want to be cut open, and prefers the idea of natural birth, which I laughed to because of the original movie.
Oh,
I thought it was fun. Unfortunately, the doctor who's talking to her must be very happy that the filmmakers decided never to focus on him directly, as his delivery is very forced and unnatural. He says, "Merry Christmas," to let us know that it's like the original film and it takes place around the holidays. And like the original as well, you would never know it because other than for a Merry Christmas here and there, and a couple of carols playing on the radio, there's nothing Christmassy happening around whatsoever in the film.
Merry Christmas. It's July, motherfucker.
You would never know it. My issue, again, is that the dialogue written sounds so unnatural when spoken by the actors. This has been a common thing for me recently. In this movie, again, there's one that's like, "Sarah, nobody teaches you how to be a good mother. You either got it or you don't. And believe me, you've got it." Sarah starts crying. "Sorry, don't be alarmed. I was bound to cry." It was just, it felt just really odd dialogue and not delivered well. And that plagues the movie throughout. Another quick example would be when the cop zooms back up to the house and explains, "I was just wondering about the name," meaning the name of the baby. It's just odd dialogue. And when you watch the movie, you'll hopefully see what I'm talking about.
Can I ask one thing?
Yeah.
Can I ask one thing? Did they do Zombie Cop?
No, and I'm going to get to it. So
okay.
I feel disconnected here from the dialogue. However, then the movie does add a new element that intrigued me, and that's the fact that she takes a bath. Not that part, but she's wearing a hearing aid. I said, but what pissed me off, though, is that it's a big honking white one that doesn't look anything like a hearing aid. It looks like a huge sound amplifier device that maybe would have been hearing aid size 20 years ago. And that bugs me because I'm in that industry. And it's like, well, if you want to kill the stigma of it, don't make it look like a big honking device because that's not what they're like anymore. She wears a hearing aid.
I know. It's
So,
a joke.
All right.
About not being able to hear you.
It has been said 1,000 times before. So she takes off the hearing aid while she's in the tub, puts it down, and then the sounds, of course, subside, and she just hears a heartbeat. And I thought that was really cool. But the downfall is they never use this device at all. They do use it, but a couple of feedback parts where it kind of whistles back to her, or she lowers the volume. The potential is never fully realized. So it was a wasted opportunity, in my opinion. And then for the next little bit, the plot sort of follows the original movie quite closely. And that's where I said it enters the realm of remake hell. And that is by staying so close to the source material and yet just being kind of a bland, sterilized version of the source material. I mean, why bother at that point? Admittedly, there are some okay moments throughout. They remove almost all the comical aspects of the cops from the original movie. There you go. And surprisingly, there is blood. Now, by no means does it go to the territory of Inside 2007, but I mean, that was a French extreme film. So this one does deliver a couple of gory moments, and they're above average and practical and probably will be like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And if this wasn't a remake, you'd probably love it even more so. Just, I think, you're going to shit on it more because it's a remake of that French extreme style. I said, but you know what? The movie's not all that good either. As mentioned, it plays out like a bland rehash, and it's frustrating moments, like when pregnant Sarah has the upper hand on her attacker. She strikes out, knocks her down to the ground, only to stop when she hears some police officers talking downstairs. I said, so now the cop aspect is probably the worst part of the original, in my opinion. The zombie cop part.
Yeah.
That probably is what takes it down that notch for me. Because I love that movie. It's in my top 20 of the millennium. I think I have it at number 8 of the top 20 of the millennium for me. But that cop part is what knocks it down a point. And this one takes that all out. So I said they seem to be on track, but then they fuck it up because a female cop comes in and makes her go back upstairs with her to check out if her story is true, which I feel is forced. And then, of course, when the cop goes to the fuse box, instead of just getting Sarah and getting the fuck out of Dodge. So that pisses me off. I know, I told you it was long. I had a lot of notes here. The almost lack of soundtrack in certain scenes also works against the suspense factor in the film. Honestly, we don't get much music until the last act. And speaking of the last act, after almost following the original cue for cue, the new film now decides to shift gears and takes the action outside of the house, and we get a quick sort of car chase sequence that ends up having them crash down the street, and then they end up going into a neighboring house where she ends up finding out that the attacker has been living there, kind of spying on her and kind of plotting out when she was going to take place, I guess, when this whole night was going to take place closer to Sarah's due date. And I'm split on this because I like the fact that they changed things up, but it makes little sense because the house is not finished. I mean, it's still under construction. So how long could she actually be there camping out, plotting this without workers noticing that there's somebody there and all these diagrams and everything hanging up on the walls?
Maybe she's the head of construction.
Yeah, maybe. We never get told that. So then we have the final showdown, which commences with an unfortunately bad, shitty name joke. Again, you have to see it to understand what I'm saying there.
That's the only part of the movie I did see was the ending. I specifically went to the end to watch, and I was like, fuck this.
And then, that's it's a fish out of water, bad joke. She's trying to one up the killer or the attacker by saying, okay, well, what are you going to name her? What are you going to name her? And I think she's just like, Isabella. And then the heroine goes, shitty name. And then attacks her, and they jump into the pool, and it's just a pool that's covered for the winter. And, of course, they fall through the cover. So now we're metaphorically in the womb. And Sarah defeats the attacker, and he needs to cut herself out of the womb.
And is reborn.
Effectively reborn, exactly. So when I said in my notes, I go, it's rather silly, and it feels very Disney-esque, especially since she gives birth right after this scene. And then the sweeping music takes us into the final credits. So they change up that whole ending. And my initial rating, as I mentioned, was a 2 out of 10. And I screamed blasphemy because I said I love the original so much. But you know what? I said, yeah, this is quote-unquote a watered-down version. It's not a bloodbath. Yes, I have problems with the delivery of dialogue and some choices made in the movie. Yeah, of course, it's an unnecessary remake. But then again, we've argued what remakes are really necessary.
Yeah, they should have just remade it.
There you go. They should have just remade it, which we have the original. So I thought, you know what? I want to be as subjective and objective, both. I want to be both in this case. And I ended up coming in at a 5 out of 10. I said the movie, I don't think fails, even though I initially said it did. I think if I wanted to look at this fairly, it does a few things right, but not enough right. It's painfully average, 5 out of 10.
Hey, that was a feature review. That's all right.
I'm not going to watch it. I didn't watch the Cabin Fever remake. I didn't watch the remake of Martyrs, and I'm not watching that. I have no desire.
I'm right there with you. I have no desire to see these remakes, especially when I hear right out of the gate that they're so bad.
Well, dude, I'm even more careful than ever right now because this will actually help us decide what we're going to talk about next. But I'm 5 for 5 on 2018 movies, so I'm rather trepidatious right now to watch another movie. So I'm sitting here like
dropping words like trepidatious.
I almost watched this one and I almost watched this one. I'm like, no, I'm 5 for 5. So now I'm like, I don't want to fuck it up. I want to keep making the right selections. So Tragedy Girls and Victor Crowley, we discussed them last show. So those are the two. The other three. Now, if there's one that I think there's one that I'm the only one that's seen it or saw it. I'm going to tell you what they are. Mom and Dad, The Ritual, and The Cloverfield Paradox. Now, B, did you have one that none of us saw?
I did. It's from 2018, and it is called Bad Apples. It's Halloween night, and two bad apples decide to play some wicked tricks on the one house in a suburban cul-de-sac that is not celebrating Halloween.
I skipped it based on the cover art.
You know what? I do. And you know what? Even though the cover art is pretty generic, the reason why I watched it was first I saw those masks, and I liked the masks, even though the cover art is not great. And I actually liked the trailer. The trailer made it look like, okay, it is going to be low budget, but it made it look like it's going to be psychological and disturbing. And man, what a waste. Oh my God.
I knew it.
I mean, you start off with a flashback of a pregnant woman being stabbed to death on Halloween. It turns out it's the father of her children who's stabbing her. He left her for another man, and he's not having that. You know, she's not going to live with some other guy who's going to raise his kids. So he decides to kill her and kill himself. But the last image you see right before they flash forward about 15 years is that the babies have survived. There's two babies on the floor. They're stabbed to death. They're killed themselves, and the two babies are on the floor, wiggling around. And then you flash forward 15 years later, and you get these two girls who have survived. They never take these masks off. They never talk. They just giggle and whisper to each other. There's absolutely no story development whatsoever. The acting is bad. The the dialogue is poorly written, and it's just incredibly underwhelming. I mean, it leads nowhere. You want background, you want psychosis here when these girls have survived what they did, but it's goofy. It's like two clowns just running around giggling and just like killing people, and the kills are just not gory, not creative, and no one cares because the characters are just annoying as hell. And it concludes with a ridiculous cliche ending, and then we get a coda. It actually says coda. It actually says coda, and then it goes to just 3 new characters in the future that we know nothing about, and it's just kind of like rehashing the beginning of the film and retelling the story and getting you set up like something creepy is going to happen, and nothing happens.
Really?
It's easily the worst movie of the year that I've seen. I have not had a great start to 2018. I've watched 8 films. I think I've liked 4 of them. Really liked 4 of them. But this one by far was absolutely atrocious. I gave it a 2.5 out of 10.
Whoa, you never come in that low.
It was so bad. There's just nothing in it. There's nothing good to talk about here.
Just ask me. Say, Dave, look at the cover art. Tell me what you think. I'm in the 90 percentile on this game. I really am.
You know what I always go back to? I go back to Satanic, because you and I had the similar experience on that, where it was so low rated on the B, and it's sort of like a generic cover art, but it turned out to be a really good film. And the trailer for this really did make it seem like oh, this is my type of film. Low budget psychological, but you get nothing. The setup was pretty cool. I'm like, oh, these girls survived trauma. Okay, of course they're gonna be fucked up, but then they're just gonna run around in masks, giggling the whole time for the rest of the movie. I mean, they literally are always wearing these masks. It's like it must stink under there.
Well, hold on. Back to Satanic. I didn't want to watch that solely because of the rating. I had no problem with the cover art. It was,
that's
below
true.
4 on the B, which to me equals don't watch it. You've never rated a movie higher that was been rated under a 4 on the B, so I never do. So that was the one time it was a 3.8, and yes, I watched it, and yes, I would give it like a 6 out of 10 or something.
Yeah.
It was fine. I'm glad but if I still went the rest of my life without seeing it, it would have been okay.
Yeah.
And we're in the minority. Most people fucking hate that movie.
Yeah, I actually enjoy that. But Bad Apples is actually a 3.4 rating on the B, and I think it's a generous 3.4 rating.
Man.
Yeah.
Bad.
Wow.
Check it out tomorrow.
Okay. Now here's the 3 I got.
Full convulsions. No, full head implosion.
There you go. An implosion. That's serious. Damn. So I'm going to start off with this one. I don't know who else saw it, but everyone here has seen my 3. At least one of you has. So I'm going to start off with this one because I think it's going to be it's going to go a little longer than the other 2. Because it's going to be a little bit of ranting, and not on the film itself, on other people's takes on this film. This one is the Cloverfield Paradox, and which one of you guys saw it besides me?
That would be me.
I cannot wait to hear what you have to say, and I hope we don't get into it. This is going to be interesting. I'll tell you what. Going into this movie, I hoped for one thing. I knew nothing, and I stay out of it. And I knew that it was coming that night after the Super Bowl. Everyone knows the story. I'm not going to rehash what every fucking podcast has already said. So it came out. I didn't watch it that night. I watched it the very next night. And I said to myself, please explain what's going on with part 1 and 2 and how they're connected. That's all I want this film to do, and I'll be happy, because we all liked the last one, but we all said, and I said even before it came out, that this looks like a movie that was shoehorned in, and they threw in something to make it Cloverfield. So all I wanted this movie to do again was to explain. The movie begins, and it's not in my wheelhouse at all, because I'm not really a space kind of guy. I mean, I like Alien, of course. I love Alien, but I'm not really a sci-fi horror type guy. It's not something that I usually gravitate to. It's usually something that other people like more than I do. So this movie had that going against it when it began. But, I'm giving it a fair shake because, why wouldn't I? It's a film. So I go into the movie and I completely am on board for the first half hour. I already have a feeling where they're going to go with their explanation when the guy starts talking about the paradox and what it means. Yes, this guy was put in there as an exposition guy, and I don't care. but he said he was explaining what's going on with different parallel universes and whatnot, and the repercussions that could happen if they keep firing this thing that they're firing out in space. So, given that information, I was like, oh, they're already going in the right direction for me. They're hopefully going to attempt to explain everything about the first two and this one. And as it goes on, a lot of stuff happens, but most importantly, they do what I was hoping they were going to do. And what's bothering me is people are complaining, saying that this was shoehorned in, and 100% that's what Cloverfield Lane was. And people, because they enjoy the movie so much, because it's like psychological and people like that shit, it seems like they want to give that one a pass, but say that this is the one that shoehorned it in, when it's the complete fucking opposite. When the third act comes, I admit, it got a little bit generic, and it was some things that I've seen before. But, I mean, the first half, I was completely into the film. Then that happened, I was like a little bit worried. Okay, well, but then I'm thinking, let's see what happens, and let's see where it's going to go, and at the very end. And sure enough, I ended up doing exactly what I wanted it to do. And there are so many hookups between this one and the other two that people don't realize. Names of characters, things that happen on the screen. I listened to a podcast. The Buzzkill podcast just put it out last week, and it's called Crimson and Clover is the episode. They really get in deep. They talk for about 15 minutes about all the parallels between this movie and that, and the marketing and how everything happens, and like how at like 18 minutes and 25 seconds of the first Cloverfield and matches up exactly with the first 18 minutes and 25 seconds of Cloverfield Paradox. When they shoot that thing, that's when the explosion happens and the power goes off in the first one, and etc. There's all kinds of these hookups, and if you watch the first one and the second one, things that tie them all together. So is it the greatest movie of all time? Of course not. But I really enjoyed everything that happened with the characters. I was on board with the characters. I liked the parallel universe stuff and what was going on, and the way it was ultimately explained 100% worked for me. And that little cherry on top at the end, it was just what I was hoping for. I think they wrapped it up. I think that it's brilliant what they're doing with this series now. And this movie, because of what they did, they can make 7 more Cloverfield movies and find a way to tie it in, but not do it cheaply. See, what do you have to say?
I agree. I didn't love the movie, but I really enjoyed it, and I don't understand the argument about being shoehorned in either. Because,
not at all.
Like the other one was like the last 10 minutes, you know what I mean? I mean, I know that it was like little hints throughout, but this movie is gorgeous to look at. I didn't even know I knew there was going to be another one out. I didn't have any clue it was dropping after Super Bowl. I didn't know any of that stuff. All of a sudden, I see Willis post on our site or on one of the sites that, hey, the new Cloverfield's on
what
Netflix.
What you talking about, Willis?
and that's exactly what went through my head. I said there was one joke that I freaking laughed so hard at, and it was a stupid joke about that guy that loses his arm. And he finds his arm, and he makes a joke towards the arm that I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And I love the ending. I thought the ending, I called it the Halloween 3 ending. Like, almost like, stop it! Have her go back! Have her go back! Have her go back! And then there's
you guys got me more excited to see it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I agree. There's plot devices sprinkled throughout, talking about time travel, dimension travel, and how it all interconnects with the one movie that's supposedly taking place in 2008, Cloverfield, and 10 Cloverfield Lane, supposing that it takes place in 2016, and why there would be differences, and that I guess this is far in the future, 2000 something or other, but it's in
part
the future.
Of it is,
yeah,
but there's different realities.
Yeah, exactly. There's different realities, and then I don't want to say too much more, Brandon, since you haven't seen it, but I would be interested in seeing your take. But I don't know what the hate is, because it was definitely a good movie.
I think people are being biased because they enjoyed 10 Cloverfield Lane as a film more than they enjoyed this. But it's like they're out of their minds, because that was the one that was shoehorned. I mean, that's why I wanted this movie to explain how that one was part of the first one. And what this movie did was tied them all together and make infinite more possibilities. And as long as they don't cheapen it in any way And like in this, some of the characters have the same last names. Some of the streets are the same streets. If you look at the marketing stuff with the posters, there's certain things you can do with them. And they do all kinds of crazy marketing online where if you have to go snooping around and do some investigation. This is an incredible thing that they're doing here and that a lot of people don't know about. And they should watch YouTube videos on it and check it out. But there's so much afoot here that I'm not saying this is the greatest movie in the world. But it did what I wanted it to do, and I was okay with just about all of it. There was just enough parts that, just enough comedy. Not comedy, but there was one character that had a few funny lines that worked. You're rooting for a certain character because you know what's going on. Just enough backstory for these characters. I really enjoyed it, and I can't understand the hate. And I came in, this movie, for me, this is like, are we doing grades? Have we been doing our numbers?
I messed up. Usually for the new ones, we haven't been, but I did do it for Inside, but that was only because I came in so ridiculously low.
Yeah, that's why I did it for Bad Apples as well. I wanted to tell you how low I came in.
Well, and then that I tried to be more objective, and then I came in at giving it a 5. But that's for Cloverfield. I'd just say half head.
Me, I'm half head too, straight up. And
hey, you're a full head together.
Yeah, yes, we are. And I'm curious to see what you see, Brandon. Check it out, because I do not understand why people are saying some of the things they're saying. It makes no sense.
I got to get back to my 2018 watches. I've been obsessed with 76 prep.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
All right. So,
do we have more besides the two I have?
Nope.
That we've seen? Okay. So, Mom and Dad. Who else saw Mom and Dad?
Present.
Right. What'd you think?
I thought it was a blast.
Me too. Lots of fun.
An absolute blast. I wish the one criticism I have with it, they could have upped the gore.
I guess so. And this is not a criticism, but I much preferred the first half to the second. And I have a feeling I'm in the minority because most people like when it gets secluded. And I was more about it's almost like The Purge. You know, everybody always says that they want to see how The Purge started and all that craziness out there, and they weren't as concerned with what was going on, like in the first Purge movie when it was just Ethan Hawke and his family, that everyone was saying, I want to see what's going on outside. Well, in this movie, you got a lot of that in the first half. And then the second half, it got more secluded. And I'm hearing people complain, but it makes no sense because they're saying that they wanted to see more of the secluded stuff. Like, well, what the fuck do you want?
I actually thought it was a perfect blend of both. The way I criticized it was, like I said, I felt like there was great violence in it, but a lot of cutaways, or you didn't see enough of the actual violence. There were some great scenes in it for them to really go overboard with it. And it's a perfect film for Nicolas Cage.
Nick is great.
He just went full Nick Cage in this.
Yes, he did.
And it's great.
I don't know. See, do you know what this movie's about? See,
yeah,
because you know the parents are killing their kids, but only their kids. They're not going after anybody else's kids, and it's really cool. It's a cool concept. It's set up like a I don't know, a virus or not. I don't know. It's not explained, and I don't care. It comes in.
Exactly. Who cares? The only thing I will say, and I believe the director of this did the Crank films.
Okay.
And you could see that because this is very fast-paced, like kind of nonstop. Is with the way this film concluded, I would really like to see another one.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with it.
Why did this get a major release?
I don't know, but it's a good film. It's a good concept.
VOD. It didn't get a wide release.
I do have one complaint: the baby scene. As soon as that baby was birthed, it looked incredibly fake to me. It looked like one of those things you could buy at the store, one of those real baby things, immediately. So anything else that happened with the parents or the baby or anything else in the hospital lost any impact that it should have had. Mm-hmm. And I'm not usually one of those type of guys that nitpick shit like that. But as soon as this baby was delivered, I looked at it and I said, oh, gee, that looks fake. So I got taken out of it. And it's weird because I'm the only one I've heard make with that complaint.
I can't nitpick because I don't have any notes on this one.
That's all right. Well, I'm just going to sum it up. I'm going to say it was a lot of fun. It said there was some good kills, but a few more would have elevated it.
Hey, you know what? And I'm telling you, it's not even a few more. It's if they showed more, especially like in the scene at the school.
Oh,
can you imagine if they showed all that?
I know.
It was a fucking massacre.
Yeah, dude.
He's pointing at you like he really wanted you to agree.
No, because it's such a cool scene, Christian. There's like the kids want to go with their parents. The kids want to go with their parents. So their parents are on the other side, all looking at them crazy, and the security guards and police are like, no, they know something's up. And then the parents just break through and start chasing their kids down, and they're they're slaughtering their children, but you don't see a lot of it.
Right, and it's cool because you feel for the characters. I like the parents. I like Nick Cage, and I like the wife, and I forget her name, but I know apparently she's somebody famous because every podcast I heard mentions her like she's somebody, so she must be
Selma Blair. She is somebody.
Blair. Yeah, she is somebody.
She is somebody.
Okay, I figured because the way people talk about her, but I don't know. But anyway, you like her. You like Nick Cage. You like the family. All the characters are pretty much likable and they're believable. Like the relationship between the mother and the daughter, with her at that age, with the separation of the parents and becoming more distant, and the way she talks to her, it actually made me a little sad. I remember telling my wife after, I said, I saw this movie and the relationship. I go, I can see Frankie acting that way toward us someday, and when that does happen, it's going to break my heart because there's not much you can do about it. They reach that age where they think you're stupid and that they know everything. You know what I mean? And it's
if it makes you feel better, I've always thought you're stupid.
It doesn't make me feel anything because I don't give a fuck what you think about it.
Good comeback.
That makes two of us.
But anyway, I won't add anything else to it.
You see.
I'm recommending it. It's a half-head explosion.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Half-head explosion, definitely recommend it.
Nice. But those flashbacks are cool. When you see before all this shit happened and how they might have set up, and when Nick flips the fuck out, that whole scene with the pool table and that story, I think it's great stuff, man.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So, there you go. Okay, one last flick. The Ritual. B, you saw this one?
I did.
Well, go ahead. You wanna lead into it since you're so good at it?
Lead into it. Okay. Yeah, it's been a couple weeks.
Well, it's pretty easy. I'll tell you what. This reminds me of The Descent, of The Blair Witch, and of The Witch. 3 great movies, and
yeah, I mean the great thing about this film is the characters. You have phenomenal characters, and the setup of this film is that a group of friends go on a camping trip to pay respect to one of their friends who's killed in a convenience store holdup. Now, the little twist to that story is that they were all together the night the friend was killed, and one of the other friends was in there with him and froze up and didn't do anything to help him. So you have all these characters now together. Like, I don't know if it's like a year later, if they even say, but it's a little bit of
6 months.
6 months? Okay, so you got 6 months later, and they're going together on this trip that they had planned to do all together. They're going to pay respect to him and go camping, and there's all these different emotions. There's guilt, there's anger, it's just a smorgasbord of emotions, and these actors are just terrific, and it sets up like this is going to be a psychological thriller, but then all of a sudden it throws in this supernatural element, and it blends the two together so well.
Yes, and don't give anything away about the third act, because I'm pissed off that I heard one word describing where it went. And I can't say it because then I'd be spoiling. But
all I'm going to say is it's a perfect blend of a psychological drama and a supernatural thriller, and it's really the best acting I've seen in a horror movie this year so far.
Oh yeah,
it's on Netflix or Shudder?
It's on Netflix.
Netflix.
And it's fantastic.
It is fantastic. I have spoken to some friends who have seen it before, and I have not a criticism, but I would have changed one thing, and I'm not even going to talk about it because that one thing would have been the ending. And it's not even that it would.
Perfect.
No, I would have added one. I would have added something to the ending to make it, make it even better. But it was still phenomenal, and I can't nitpick anything I saw. I just would have tacked on an extra 15-second scene at the end.
Okay, that's cool. We'll talk about it then.
Yeah.
Off camera or off air or whatever. But the lead character, it sets you up where you're not sure what you think about him at first, and then you end up, I think, caring about all the characters, and it's very believable, their relationships, and they each have strengths and weaknesses. But you're with this lead character from the beginning because you see what happens. You see that he pulls this little act, which, as a human being, it's hard to say what everyone would do in that situation. You know, me and my wife debated this because I said, you know what, if I'm there and something happens at first, my first instinct is to do this before I see what happens. Well, once things transpire a different way, maybe I'm going to act a different way. And if I'm there with you, I'm telling this to my wife or my daughter, it's a completely different thing. But if I'm there with another grown male like myself, I think that they should have the smarts to act a certain way that I am and just get the fuck out of the way and access the situation for what it is and then go on with it. But that's a whole other story, and I wish we could have got into this as a full review, spoilers and everything, because a lot can be discussed here, and we can't do it now. But all I'm going to say is everybody should watch this movie, and it's a full head explosion. I fucking love this film.
Yeah, I'm at a full head explosion too, even though I do have, like I said, the one thing that I would like to add. But you get on board because of these characters. And I actually found them all pretty likable from the beginning, very true to life. You could tell these are good buddies, and this is just a horrible thing that happened, and it's kind of tearing them apart. And it just, like, there's no evil, sinister intentions with these characters. You could tell they're good buddies, but they're fighting because of this incident that happened ultimately. And
and where it goes and why a character was chosen for what they were chosen for all makes perfect sense to me because of what they had going on internally. It makes sense that somebody else would think that he was going to be subservient to them because of what he had going on inside and part of what happened in the past. And I'll just leave it at that. I wish we could have really covered this film, but it's a ringing endorsement already from at least two of us, so you guys have seriously got to check this one.
Yeah, I admit to people that I even came in lower than I think I probably will upon rewatches.
I saw it twice already.
I've only seen it once, but man, this was easily my favorite movie so far this year, and a strong contender right now for year end.
Oh yeah. Unless this is the best year in history, there's no way it wouldn't be on my top 10. I'll tell you. This movie is really. It's that good that it blends two genres together, two subgenres together so well. And you don't even want to. We literally set up like the first 25 minutes. Right. We didn't even get to the the last hour, which just.
And why did this get a big release? This had a known cast too, didn't it? Doesn't it?
The UK, no.
No, it's English actors. There's I don't know how to. Rafe Spall. Rafe Spall, whose father's a well-known actor. Rafe Spall was in he had an appearance in Hot Fuzz, and I think he was in Shaun of the Dead.
Don't look at anything. I don't want you to do spoilers.
Yeah, just seriously. You don't even want to hear people talk about any minute detail. The setup is pretty much all we've given. Just go in and watch this because it's a gem.
Holy shit! That picture, I thought that was Ryan Reynolds.
Don't look at any more pictures. Get off. I heard they show something. You don't even want to know about it.
I won't even do it.
Don't even. I heard they actually show something on the IMDb in the pictures. So don't go. It's a straight spoiler. Make it the next movie you watch. Go on Netflix and watch the fucking thing. Straight up. That goes for everybody out there if you haven't seen it.
Sounds good.
So, all right. Well, let's take a quick break and then come back and do our last review and get the hell out of here. What do you guys say?
Are you looking to travel beyond the void?
This is Alex from Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. Join me and my co-host Brittany Bloodshed every week for 2 episodes on Monday and Thursday. Do you like to drink, laugh, and talk horror? Well, so do we. We make up funny skits, horror shots each week, news, and rotating segments on Monday like Great Plots where we make up movies on the spot, interviews, reviews, and a lot more. Plus, on Thursdays, we break down 2 horror movies with jokes and loads of trivia. Go to longlivethevoid.com to check out Beyond the Void Horror Podcast now.
We're back. We have one final review. What's the name of this movie? Twins of Circus?
Twins of Circus. I genuinely believe you think it's called Twins of Circus, but it's called Vampire Circus. And this one's from 1972, directed by Robert Young. As the plague sweeps the countryside, a quarantined village is visited by a mysterious traveling circus. Soon, young children begin to disappear, and the locals suspect the circus troupe might be hiding a horrifying secret.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. They get a curse. This whole place gets a curse because this vampire's fucking people's wives or something like that, and the villagers kill the vampire eventually, or not eventually, like in the first 5 minutes of the film, and he curses the whole freaking place.
Another count. Count Mitterhaus.
Count Mitterhaus, yes.
In Stettel.
And out of the gate, this is the one when I saw how he was dressed, I'm like, why does he have the same fashion sense as Brandon?
Hey, this took place in the 19th century, so at least it was more current fashion for me.
And yes. Dave, come on. This is the one that I thought you'd love. Right out of the gate, a little girl gets killed.
I did like that. That was good stuff. And it was a long intro, 13 minutes until the opening credits came in.
I wrote that too.
What the fuck, right? In a diseased village, and 15 years later, here's what I don't get. Why would a circus come to a place that's quarantined, this diseased village, and why would they think that they were just there for, reasons that weren't
That's
nefarious?
the interesting question, because nobody really questioned how they got through the roadblock, because there's a roadblock in and out of this did
did question it, and they did give them an answer.
But they kind of dismissed it because the town is so death-ridden that it just needed some joy, so they didn't even bother to really second-guess it. And I was totally on board with that. That's fine.
No, I'm not complaining. It was just a little surprising that they would just be so accepting of, like, wouldn't you think that they were up to no good if they're coming in there to, I don't know. And they were doing these mysterious tricks that they would have to have supernatural powers, you'd think, to do. Who's that good?
The fucking best trick in the thing was when that midget, or little person, so I don't want to offend anybody, with the white fucking makeup face, decides to pull off his face to reveal a white makeup face.
Yes.
The fuck is going on here?
That's my kind of trick. I like that. It's unexpected.
Did any of you have to look up what a Burgmeister is?
No. Okay, check it out. Burgermeister. Now if you watch Santa Claus is Coming to Town, that show that comes on every year, when you hear about how Santa Claus, came to be. You know what I'm talking about? The Rankin Bass show?
I'm Jewish.
Like Rudolph and all that shit. You guys never
watched that one in ages. Yeah,
I watch it every year.
Okay.
Well, the guy in it from the German town, his name is Burgermeister Meisterburger. So as soon as they said Burgermeister, I thought of him. I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell is this all about? So that must be some type of title in.
It means like chief or chairman. I thought he worked at McDonald's or something. I was like, he's a Burgermeister. I was like, what the...
No, I'm thinking of fucking Santa. I recognized that. I was just like, kind of, taken by it. I was like, Burgermeister. But anyway, yeah.
I thought the setup was cool. The whole, I know you said it was 13 minutes, but I thought it was cool. Good setup.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. They killed, the count, and he vows to return and kill all the children of the town and be reborn.
I thought it was like Nightmare on Elm Street. I was like,
it is. Yeah. It's Nightmare on Elm.
It was like, when it was the line, like the curse is on the parents and will pay through your children or something like that. I'm like, what? Right. Like Nightmare on Elm Street. But tell me, right out of the gate, I think he fucks a woman, the count.
Yeah.
And this woman's like, please don't leave me. I'm like, I've never satisfied a woman like that. So I was like, please get the fuck out.
Have you satisfied a man like that?
Yeah. Well, that goes without saying.
Oh shit. Well, he's a vampire. You got those skills, man, and man, I tell you, what a life.
How about how nonchalant? Like, obviously, we jump 15 years later, and the doctor of the town has to leave because he has to get to the major city to get medicine, to get help, because he knows how to cure the plague, but he's not allowed out. So him and his son do that whole, like, I'll distract him while you go through the guns, like it was no big deal.
Yeah,
I would be like, Dad, I ain't doing that. I'm sorry, you're on your own.
Fuck you, Dad.
They're good doctors. They're committed to their craft.
Another example, good characters. Really good characters in this one.
There's one guy at the beginning, I'm like, oh my God, it's Anthony Hopkins. I swore it was Anthony Hopkins. And I looked up IMDb and nope, it wasn't him. That's my story, but I wrote it down. And there's some crazy carnage at the beginning, but there was one really bad, someone get their throat cut, but it was a really bad, like, cut, and the spray came from, like, nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cheesy fun.
Yeah. It was cheesy fun.
It was cheesy fun. I was on board until the last act. And when the last act hit, it just seemed like there was too many characters. There was no main characters. It was just always, and I was fine with that. It was bouncing around between the circus people and this guy and this chick and this other people. There was so many characters in this film and so many things going on.
Yeah.
Right? But there was no main characters. But all of a sudden, they decided to make these two characters the main characters. And I wasn't identifying with them because it took way too long for them to set them up as someone we're supposed to be interested in. So for me...
Dora and
yes. Yeah, whatever their names were.
Yeah, Dora and Anton. I believe that they were the main characters because Dora's father was like kind of the main character at the beginning, and he's sort of a main character throughout because he's the one who's kind of leading the whole thing against the vampires. But once they return, it's like young love. She came back to a plague-ridden town just to be with him.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess in terms of storytelling,
I thought the circus had a lot of characters, and I thought, interestingly enough, what they did with these characters was pretty creative, because not everybody was as you thought. Not everyone was a vampire.
Yeah.
No, they weren't.
I thought this was more ambitious in both the story and the ideas than both Twins of Evil and Countess Dracula, to be honest. But it seemed a little dull in comparison.
Agree.
This was the least favorite of the three.
Yeah, me too.
I would agree. I don't know if my rating necessarily represents that, but from an enjoyment standard, I'd say this is my least favorite of the three. There's fantastic moments, to be sure. Like there's some nice shots of some mangled corpses. One, I think, with maggots even. And then the giant cross staking. Holy shit, was that cool or what?
Yeah.
That giant cross being pushed down and going right through.
Oh, yeah.
The beheading was a little clumsy, but oh well. Best line of the movie, or best exchange of lines, when the midget brings those people to the roadblock. We have reached the roadblock. The people, oh, bless you.
Don't bless me,
pay me.
Yeah, I wrote that too. We all wrote that down. Don't bless me.
That was hilarious. Don't bless
awesome.
me, pay me.
Yes. That was great.
And before that, he didn't speak a word. Why couldn't he say this way, this way? He's fucking acting like a mime the whole way. He's like, do-do-do-do, like Marcel Marceau. He's not saying a word, just pointing this way. Then all of a sudden, we have reached the roadblock. Like,
I do a
fuckface,
great impression of Marcel Marceau.
Yeah, why don't you try it right now? You do that for 50 more shows?
What'd you think? Wasn't that good?
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, the listeners loved it too.
The listeners probably don't even know who Marcel Marceau is.
Oh, no, you're insulting them.
JP doesn't even know who Meryl Streep is. You think he knows who Marcel Marceau is?
No, I'd say he does not. How about Rosa? Man, was she hot, huh?
Oh, once again, there's always hot girls in these movies.
I like Dora, man. Dora was beautiful.
They were all.
What about the mirror? They play with the reflection shit, too, in this. Like, the mirror reflection and vampire, and then they lead into a different world and everything like that. But they seem like it's part of the carnival tricks. Like, I like that stuff. I thought that stuff was great.
Me too. It was great. That one scene with the boys.
Just too many characters. I even thought that whole dance scene with the one male dancer and then the naked woman painted as a leopard. I was like, but then those characters are throwaways, complete throwaways. And then they got the twin vampires, and I'm like, where did they come from?
And she was hot too.
Yeah, Helga.
They all were. All the women in this movie are attractive. There's like half a dozen, easy.
A lot of people. It was a little tough to keep track.
This would be the circus for me.
Yeah, right. Too bad you can't sign up for it, huh?
Yeah, you could watch The Panther. you could watch a meal.
Yeah, a meal. Yeah. I'll tell you what part was cool. What you were talking about, the mirrors. With the two boys. Oh, two brave boys. And she brings them in. Yeah, I think that was like the highlight of the film. That was actually scary. That's the one scary moment of this film.
Too?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was done well. The whole thing was good.
Agreed.
But it was kind of weird because when they first brought the Meisterburger in there, or the Burgermeister. I'm telling you, I got that fucking thing. Meisterburger. It's freaking Christmas shit. When they first brought him in there, because they wanted to get him right away for whatever reason, they bring him in there, and he was cracking up like he was sucking down nitrous. He was cracking up so bad at those funhouse mirrors.
Yeah.
I was like, really? That's your reaction? I mean, yeah, I guess it's entertaining, to see yourself goofed up. He was acting like it was the fucking greatest thing he's ever seen in his life.
How about the look of permanent horror on his face after he had like the heart attack?
Yeah.
If I ever look like that and I'm still alive, shoot me twice in the back of the head, please.
I actually wrote a note. Honestly, I figured this would be Dave's fave of the three Hammer flicks because of all the kid in animal death. Because there's animal death in this too.
Yeah, well, that's those animals nobody cares about though. It's all when it comes to it. No, it's true. There's nothing.
That monkey.
You don't care about those animals. They weren't loved. They weren't beloved pets. That's the difference. I don't want to see animals killed. As you hear me talk.
Pets.
Yes, something that's beloved and innocent that is supposed to hurt you. Like That's what I want. I want a gut punch. I was like,
You
oh.
you want to see a small child beaten to death with a puppy?
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
That would be great. Done in a comical type tone. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Wow. We're putting that in our movie. Small child beaten to death with a puppy. You get it all.
All right. So we have our main characters in terms of who we're kind of rooting for throughout, which are Dora and Anton. You have Albert, who's the schoolmaster, who's sort of like who's witnessed like the beginning of the whole thing and destroyed the count. And then you have the leader of the circus, who's Anna, the gypsy woman, who turns out to be Anna, who's actually the wife.
Oh, is she now? I didn't catch that.
She got away at the beginning.
All right. Wow.
She returns. That's why, and she's the mother of Heinrich and Helga, but she's also the mother of Dora. That's why you see at the end there's a scene where she actually sacrifices herself. She kind of leans down to save Dora, and she gets stabbed instead of Dora, and Emil's like in shock.
Why is it when everybody gets staked in the heart in this one, it's like in the lower stomach?
I know, right?
I know they say the heart's in the center of your body, but it feels like they're getting stabbed well below it.
Yeah, apparently your heart is like literally right above your testicles.
Yeah, like they're digesting it. Something like that. I'm like, what the fuck are these vampire hearts?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, but that was interesting how that tied back in.
No, I didn't mean to jump away from what you're saying. I agreed. Fun vampire carnage, enjoyable. Just probably my least favorite of the three that we watched.
Yeah, 100% with you. Yeah.
And I'm not saying it in a bad way. I still came in at a 7 out of 10.
I'm 6.5, so I'm right there.
Yeah, I'm 7.5.
Okay. Boy, you are the hammer man. Fucking B. Wow.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could even go higher on this upon rewatches. Like you said, it was just a little bit confusing with so many characters. There were a lot of people.
There was, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was a whole bunch of characters bouncing around.
So a rewatch, when you know who everyone is, it might be easier to like just lay back and enjoy.
Yeah, I think so. I think a second view helps. And why not? It's entertaining enough, and there's some attractive women, that's for sure. So
Hells yes.
Yeah, man.
So what killed the Hammer movie? Do you think it was The Exorcist, and the realization that because I mean they talked about witches and like was it the fact that The Exorcist brought it to modern time, and devil and possession, and it just sort of killed the fact that they were doing sort of period piece vampire films and couldn't translate that into something that was more modern?
I honestly don't know. I mean, because The Exorcist was, I mean, they went on for a lot longer after The Exorcist. Well, no, when did The Exorcist came out?
74, right?
74.
73, I lied.
So they went on for like 4 or 5 more years. Yeah, yeah, you might be right.
I just think that for the long, I noticed this, and I don't want to talk on it too much, but you guys don't doing the Stephen King thing, you know? So I'm 4 movies in, and the third movie, or the second movie, was Salem's Lot. And as I'm watching Salem's Lot for the first time since childhood, mind you, I'm noticing that it's 1978 when they're filming, 79, whatever, when it comes out. And there's a young boy, a teenage boy who's into horror. And if you look around his room, all the posters he has and all the things he has are Dracula, Frankenstein, everything from the 30s and up. And I'm thinking at this point, so and granted, Texas Chainsaw came out in 74, but he didn't become an icon until the 80s when all the sequels started coming out, you know? So, but I'm thinking from the 1930s to almost the 1980s, there is nothing for horror icons or anything. They're still stuck on these fucking same old characters. And the 80s came along and changed all of that shit. And it's really amazing. But I mean, at that point, nothing else had come along. So I'm thinking that when Hammer came, they did more Draculas, they did more other things like that, and they got into period pieces, and it just stayed that way. Then I think horror started to take a turn in the 70s, or even at the end of Rosemary's Baby set in modern times. I think more modern horror started coming into the picture, more adult horror that was modern, and I think that it was the next progression because it was coming back to the United States. I think,
yeah.
And it was just the times because. Isn't it weird that they're so stuck on those same characters at fucking that time that nothing changed? Really? It's just odd. It's just something that crossed my mind. And Hammer just did his thing for a while, but then eventually horror got modern again. And they were just kind of.
I'll tell you what, though, this Hammer stuff, this whole time period would not have appealed to me when I was younger.
No, not at all.
At all.
Right.
You guys said that before, and I admittedly I did like to watch them. I would watch them; they'd be on TV. I remember catching a few of them here and there. I was always a little scared, but the Dracula ones never scared me, so I could watch them when I was a bit younger. Before I really got into horror, I at least watched the Dracula movies.
Yeah.
And like the old Universal ones I'd seen.
There was so much dialogue. I just don't see how a kid would want to watch it. I guess scenes, but man, my daughter, as you guys know, is a fan of horror. I don't think she would be interested in sitting down and watching Dracula and Frankenstein and Bride of in those old movies. I think it's just very dialogue heavy and very slow moving.
I know people that might not like the ones we're talking about from the 80s. Because, like, even Friday the 13th, I think my kids might find it a little dry. So you can say that about those two. It pains me to say that, but that's the case. And I think it's just, they're going to be looking back at those movies that's, they're just too dated, they're too old. We're generalizing. There will always be people that will appreciate them. But, yeah, I think it will be difficult for new generations and new audiences to appreciate the classic, like, Universal monster movies.
Film has just changed so much.
Yeah.
That's all there. It's like I complain. I say things are too convenient and things. It's just certain things when you watch those films that wouldn't fly if you made a movie nowadays. And I guess
but now we're getting period pieces again. Look at films like Winchester, The Witch. They're just, updated now.
Right.
And The Witch would be a perfect Hammer film. Like if that came out as like a Hammer film, that to me would have been a great, like a modern version of a Hammer film.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I'm glad we got to see the films.
Yes, thanks, Derek, for recommending that. Thanks, everybody else, for your picks.
Yes, and we do have one more pick that we're not doing the next show because next show is Phantasm. But after that, we talked to Charlene, and she said that she wanted us to watch...
I Saw the Devil.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite fucking movies. I Saw the Devil. So I'm really excited about that. So that'll be our triple R for not next show, but the show after.
Nice.
We'll do that as a triple R.
Yeah. Next show will be our Phantasm show.
Yes.
One
Nice.
and two.
And if you guys want to get involved, we've mentioned it tonight, but we haven't given the information about the Patreon. So let me just run that by.
Let me just give you my bank account number.
Yeah, there you go. Right to them. It's www.patreon.com/explodingheads. Go check us out. We have things going up there all the time. We're making efforts to put up a lot of exclusive material, things, early releases of everything, and we're really hammering it home. We're putting more and more stuff on. I'll probably put a video on there this month.
Hammering it home.
Hey, Hammer. Nailed it. Nailed it.
See? Hammer. I am. They put me in the mix. So anyway, patreon.com. There you go. Guys, email us, explodingheadshorrorpodcast@gmail.com or voicemail 702-389-6472. Get involved. There we are. And join the Facebook group page. And anything else we got to shout out before we go?
No, man. I think that's it.
We're good?
Yeah, we're good.
I'm looking forward to watching more Hammer films. I'll report back here when I do.
Right on. Sounds good.
No rush.
Yeah, who you kidding?
Try that Marceau again.
We'll be out. Talk to you guys later. Thank you. We love you guys. And see you in 4 months.
He always ruins the endings. Good night, everybody.
Let's go play Hammer.
Good night, everybody. I'm coming out. I'm going out late. Fuck.
Just go out.
You're coming
Just
out.
go out. He's coming out.
I'm
And
coming
now
out
just
of
go
my-
out.
I'm coming out. Coming out of my butt.
Proper.